Welcome. This is All Politics So Local, America's number one political hip hop talk show. And we are on with the first Friday. And you know, if it's the first Friday, it is Pastrami over politics. We're going to start off with that. We are always honored to have Rahman Muhammad and Alturrick Kenney making controversy, saying cool stuff, saying stuff that educates as well. We're going to be talking about the inauguration that happened on July 1st. We're going to be talking about the persecution of Congresswoman LaMonica McIver. We're going to be talking about lessons from similar but different points in our city's history. We're also going to throw in some conversation about Young Miami. Is it for the culture or nah? And we're going to throw in some other history of that, of Clive Davis and the Harvard report, because whenever we talk about music, we should talk about some of the whole story with it as well. So that's how we're starting off just the first hour. The second hour, we're gonna have Dr. Todd Stephen Burroughs on talking about Ta-Nehisi Coates and Kamala Harris and the Black radical tradition. It's a recent Ta-Nehisi Coates article that he's highlighting, and it really is about politics. It really is about our role as individuals and the different ways of thinking. Always trying to get Dr. Todd Stephen Burroughs on. Very glad to have him on tonight. At 7:45, we're going to have Josie Gonsalves again on again this week of Public Square Amplified. She's going to be talking about cuts in public funding for journalism. We're also going to throw in the Powell Memo and the fight to maintain institutions in public funding for journalism. We're also going to throw in the Powell Memo. NFL superstar Tahir Whitehead on, and it's going to be on with Marquis Lewis, and we're going to talk about his youth camp at the Tahir Whitehead Sports Complex on July 11th. And then, of course, at 8:45, we're going to throw in DJ Rhino and the state of hip hop, and hopefully we will see him there as well, because it's always great having him on. So that's the show's lineup for tonight. And we are starting off with Pastrami over politics. And, we've been doing this show for months now. And Alturrick and I have not had Pastrami on this show. And, we're not stop by. Yeah, well. We're going to prioritize. Hopefully I will get it right next. But or the next.
Yeah, y'all supposed to be at the show, man. It's supposed to be here. The show
right. We're supposed to be at the deli,
Big Rock Deli,
for that first hour. I know that we've got to work that out.
And we'll still have no pastrami, sir. Even if we were there, we still have no pastrami.
Okay, so first of all, Alturrick, you can't tell no lies, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The pastrami's there. You know the pastrami's there.
Exactly.
Like I don't.
He talking about getting just me giving it. He come in my deli all the time eating free food.
Whatever happens,
he do support though. He do support.
Rahman, share the address again. Can we go again to Big Rock Deli? Where?
16 Irving Turner Boulevard, Newark, New Jersey. Let's go.
Absolutely. Come by and support Big Rocks.
Hey, I did notice he been posting clips. I did notice he been posting clips of us, man. I'm like, you go on Facebook and you see these clips, you're like, whoa, wait a minute, did I say that?
Well, yes, and they're very highly rated clips, I would say. Right? A lot of people are having comments on these various clips. So yes, there are.
I think I got threatened on one of them. Did I get threatened?
I don't know if you got threatened. I don't know if threatened is the word. Did someone threaten you?
From the one you posted about what I said about the protesters, I think one of those crazy people made a little comment, but it don't matter.
I'd have to check those. I don't do a good job of actually keeping.
Yeah, no, it's not. I mean, it wasn't nothing that. Yeah, it wasn't nothing that was going to be. I don't feed these people. I just, I'm gonna still say what I stand by my comments.
Oh, of course, right? And yes, they are some of the most highly rated clips, right? Like in terms of there were thousands of people who chime in, comment, and watch them.
And Alturrick be sounding intelligent too. I was like, oh my, that last clip you posted with Al, I was like, he sounded a little intelligent there.
Here's my intelligent look. Thank you.
Well, you'd appreciate this because all the clips are done by AI, right? Like literally at the end of the program, StreamYard has this thing where it's like, do you want AI clips? And I'm like, I really don't have time to actually do clips. So I'm like, yeah, just give me some clips. And they pick your stuff out.
Oh, okay.
You're clippable. AI says you are clippable.
Well, let's make some more clips tonight, my brother.
All right.
You start.
So what's going on? Like, we had the inauguration on July 1st. What say you? I know you have a lot of comments and stuff to say. It is a new start for 4 years. It was a tough campaign. In Newark, New Jersey, the inauguration was July 1st. A lot of old faces, some new.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I don't know how tough the campaign was. I gotta be honest with you, Jonathan. I mean, for the mayor especially, I think it was. I think it was disrespectful. I don't know about being tough. I think what I'm saying. Most people would say that what occurred as far as people being reelected was going to occur. Everybody that the mayor supported got reelected. The open seat, Donna won. And at the end of the day, when you think about it, Donna Jackson is the most named, most active person out of the other people that was running. So I'm actually not surprised that she won. And to be honest with you, listening to her speak, I thought she did a fairly decent speak with somebody who I really think embellishes a lot. And, to me, she did no embellishing, which was great. And I think she had an accountability message there. So I'm going to take some positive things from Donna's speech. Do I think that she's going to be Donna? Yes, without a doubt. I do. But I think eventually she's going to realize that governing is something different. And that, you cannot just point out the bad things, or you just cannot go to every shooting or go run to every hospital or run only to the rent courts. The reality of the matter is you got to do something about what the people are going through. And that requires you to be in City Hall, building relationships or other places in the community, don't necessarily have to be City Hall, but building relationships to figure ways to get it done. I actually think it is an opportunity here too. And I think it should be used well, especially for those seeking to run in 2030. This is an opportunity for someone who is fresh, who people don't believe is attached to a system. Listen, we're not attached to a system, but we've been in it so long that people believe that because they think we are the system, right? And so, what I'm saying? I would say we still outside of that system. Yes, we are people who have fought the system that's still winning, and we're still in office. Are we perfect? No. But I still would think that we more like Donna than any of Donna and them believe that we're not. We just understand that governing is something different than protesting. That we now, because we have the right. Can't hear me?
I was going to say, can you break that down when you're saying that? Because a lot of people would be like, the mayor, the most of the people that, well, really all the people that he ran got elected, right? Right. Only one had a runoff, and won that runoff decisively, right? So when you're looking at the status quo, like the mayor, the current, why isn't that the status quo? Or is that or were you saying something different? What do you mean by
why isn't what the status quo?
Why isn't?
I think,
or
why I don't
maybe
think
what you meant.
The system.
Right. Yeah.
Well, because we're not. We're still outside of the box thinkers and leaders. I think that we still want to do the radical things to solving problems, or try the radical things that need to solve people problems. We still are people in the city. We are a lot like Donna. We just understand governing and what has to be done when it comes to governing. You're not going to be governing requires compromise. You're not going to get everything you want, and they're not going to get everything they want. And you have to bring those compromises together for the betterment of the people. It is the reason why I always tell people that, to me, preaching and politics is two different things. And when preachers run for political office, I get a little like not understand it, because I think it's hypocrisy, because in the church, you should be about all souls have to be saved. But in politics, unfortunately, that is not the answer all the time, because the reality of the matter is, to come to compromise means that someone may be a loser. And to be honest with you, when you're a protester, you're just like a preacher. You think that no one is going to lose. The reality that is that when you get behind the scenes, you realize that as much as you want to try to make sure that don't happen, that there is going to be some of those consequences in the end. And it's because of the decisions that you make. And Donna's going to learn that. You know what I'm saying? And hopefully that when she understands that she's able to still get through that with people understanding that she's still doing the best job to represent them. Because the reality of the matter is, you're going to have to compromise to get something done. She's one person. You need 5 votes. You know what I'm saying?
But when you're saying inside, outside, you're talking about maybe inside in terms of Newark and being able to understand how to get things done with inside of Newark. But I think when you're saying inside, outside, you mean like the larger county, state. Those are levels of power where we could be argued to be on the outside, as in like we don't control the executive, right? Like we don't control in the county or in the governorships.
Well, I think, well, yeah, I mean, we're in charge in Newark, so there's no outside for us when it comes to the city of Newark, right? We are the people inside, right? But what I'm trying to say is that we still is not the system that people believe. We still fight in that system that people believe is oppressing them, that they can't get the things that they need to help or move forward in progress. We still those people. And when I hear some of the rhetoric that is being said, as if we so loud, or that we're not, you know what I'm saying, trying to take care of Newark residents, I think that's just not true. Everything we do, everything the mayor does, every director, I'm in the director meeting. This man is very, very keen on making sure that Newark residents get their fair share. But once again, he's in elected office. And unfortunately, because of the way the system is, and he's fighting, this is the point I'm trying to make, we're still fighting to change that system, but we have opportunity to do it with a small portion of it that we can turn around and leverage to get some more of the things that we want. When on the other side, we weren't able to do that. We still had to throw, what my mother said, throwing rocks outside the penitentiary. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, go ahead.
I think that what Rock is also saying is that if you listen to Donna's message, I think is very Baraka-esque 2014.
Right.
I don't think there's a change in terms of the message. It's a very popular message. It's a message that I think people, when they voted for Raz and they got excited about his campaign in 2014, it was a very them versus us message. And I think when you become the governor, you have to realize that it can't just be them versus us, because at times you're going to need them to solve some issues that impact us, right? So if it wasn't for Baraka working with the county administration to solve the water issue, then we had to figure out how do we resolve the issue regarding how to replace lead pipes in the city of Newark. If it wasn't about the issues regarding federal resources that he had to rely on, when the late great Donald Payne was in office, trying to secure federal dollars. Even now on the LaMonica administration, you would need a message that says, okay, I transition from a protest candidate to a person who's governing, even if the system doesn't recognize our individualized voice. And I think some people forgot that Raz is not a system or party line candidate. Just because you win an elected office doesn't mean you're the machine. And I think people have forgotten who Baraka and the organization that helped create a Baraka administration is. And I think Donna is, and I really appreciate her message when she came on board. It was an accountability message. It's no different than saying, when I become mayor, you become mayor. To say, well, if you throw trash in the middle of the street, do not call the city of Newark first, clean up your own trash in front of your own house, because as one of the candidates said during the election, every piece of trash has a name on it, has attached to somebody, right? As a message about, producing for our children in terms of We have to be able to talk about academics from the standpoint of parents, our community, our family and friends are responsible for the education of our children, in addition to ensuring that the system is correct. I think that's the same message that Baraka talked about when he ran for mayor in 2014. And I think that when she said there's a new Newark, it's always been the same message. And where she talked about, well, when people from the outside of City Newark is no longer going to abuse the City Newark residents and institutions that fund their situation, Barack has been doing the same thing since he came in office, but now she's going to amplify that message from the council seat. And I hope that message becomes a lot clearer that, and I think what Donna did, Donna and Raz, and the members of the municipal council showed is that we're a united front, in the municipal council, in the city of Newark, is that we're not, quote unquote, for sale, per se. And she's going to face some difficult challenges like every council member faces when they first become an elected official, that you have these ideas that you want to implement, but you need to count to 5. You have to work with the administration. You have to have some clear plans and some realistic expectations and timelines. You also have to hold yourself and the people that you're governing accountable for how the city is currently operating. And so to me, it's going to be a fun time in this administration, because sometimes you need a little shakeup, but also you have to have a reminder that the message across the board, if you heard the message, is very similar. They're a very popular message. That if you look at Baraka's message, it's the same thing Donna has spoken, just from a different voice and a different angle. And also the last part is that people think that there's, we hired a public advocate. That's not what council members do. They're not hired to be public advocates. They're not no votes on every decision that has to be made in the city of Newark. You have to govern, and you have to vote on legitimate projects that impact the city and its budget. And so it's going to be a fun time to see how the city is going to operate in the next 4 years. But as Baraka said, the campaign is over. It's time to govern. And I think Donna's going to recognize that as she moves forward.
But let me before you go, I just want to give an example of what Tariq just said about what I mean when I'm talking about the system, right? So the system for what the fixing the pipes was that you could not use public money to fix a private homeowner's pipe. That was the system. But because the mayor was elected in office, he went and changed the system. He was able to leverage his position to change the system to allow for the city of Newark to now borrow money. So you have to understand there are taxpayers on the foot that's paying a loan for over $100 million to change other people's pipes that had lead in their water, that had lead pipes in their homes. He changed the system. The system, the normal system would have been what everybody else did. You know what I'm saying? That's not our responsibility. We're not going to borrow money to change your personal lead pipe because that's in your home. You have to change your pipe. He changed that. He changed that within the system to make sure he had the ability to now spend public money on private homeowners. That is the point that I'm trying to make, that when you are in position and you really fight for the people, he did that for the people. There are and at the end of the day, taxpayers in Newark, other taxpayers in Newark is helping to pay for what the mayor did with changing the homeowners who had lead pipes running to their house. That's a decision he made for everybody because he's fighting for the people. The message that him and Donna got, it's not different. The only difference is the mayor know he has to do it. He just can't point the finger of blame and say what somebody else is not doing.
I think that, and this goes to really into that next, like, what are the things that are going to be worked on in the next 4 years? I think that the strength of the mayor is the stuff that was actually accomplished and done, like the way that he did it, whether it be through the men's meeting, through the Office of Violence Prevention. There were not just accomplishments, there were accomplishments that were attached to a particular ideology. And I think that in local and in national politics, you get the ideological difference between the parties. You know what MAGA stands for, right? They're against DEI, they're against basically Black people, that they're against, they're they're for a lot of, like, you can tell where they're going to fall on certain issues. Democrats generally for healthcare, you know, that they're going to be falling on certain issues. In local politics, we don't have it explicitly stated as in this is the agenda of the Baracas, right? Or the people who are supporting the mayor, or whatever the party is called. It's not like even though it's there. And just like you're talking about what happened with water, right? And making sure that you were able to get money to change use public money to change private lead lines. I do think there needs to be an explicit stating of ideology of what is this all about, right? Because it's consistent. It's consistent. And I think that if there was that particular type of ideology explicitly stated, I think a lot of the disinformation around that occurred in the campaign, I think it would be harder to do, because what he stands for would be just very, very clear to everyone, right? Like the Office of Violence Prevention is a signature accomplishment, but it's also part of an ideology. What he did with water is a signature accomplishment, but it's also a part of like a bottom-up ideology. The men's meetings, those are accomplishments. That's definitely part of an ideology that could be part of a platform that when you're dealing with issues of poverty in an urban environment, the ability to focus on men and being able to make money through entrepreneurial access has to be a part of it, right? Does this make sense in terms of what may be missing, right? Am I wrong in that the explicit, this is what we stand for, I get the policy accomplishments, but was it transformed into ideology in a way so that people could know that a lot of what Donna was saying is very similar to what Raz has been saying, and they are articulating very similar visions.
Well, Chet, you want to go first? I know you want.
Yeah, I think that. No, so yeah, I'm just briefly touch because a few things came to mind. Because you have to have an ideology, then you have to have a policy in place to ensure that that ideology manifests itself. So the ideology is, how do we able to protect residents from losing their homes when private folks are selling their houses into a marketplace where people are buying the houses and then pricing those individuals out. And it was created a process where, first of all, we got to make sure that local residents, you know, have this sort of coffee clutch conversation, men's meeting, you know, they're having these conversations, you know, with people, with directors leading those conversations, individuals who were able to buy property in the municipalities, and then able to tell local residents, listen, you can buy where you live. It started off with the Valentine's Day auction. It mushroomed into other opportunities where local residents are buying local residents are able to buy locally, but learn a process, and they can apply here in the city of Newark or apply anywhere they are. The second one is, how do we take formerly incarcerated people, give them a skill set, a job, and they get them back into the workforce? But also the same message with what Donna said is, if you make a mess in your city, how are you able to clean it up? Well, that's what the Office of Violence Prevention is. How you hire locally to tell people, hey, listen, I made a mess in terms of the personal decisions I made or the circumstances, you know, that helped create the situation that I was born into. You know, I want to make sure that next generation of young people are not in those experiences. And so, one, they got a skill set. They went to under Deputy Mayor Rahman Muhammad and found a legitimate skill set. Or they work with Newark Public Schools to make sure young people have pathways to go to and from school. So that the ideology had to manifest itself into an actual policy that was put in place. So I think the same thing that is happening. Let me back up a second. If you take Baraka's administration and put another label on it and say Mamdani on it, Mamdani, you would say this person is a leading progressive that we have to follow throughout the country. some of the things that this city is, like the city of New York is doing, has been done 12 years earlier. It's been worked on the last 12 years. And I think that what's happened in the city of Newark has become a national model for other cities throughout the country to follow. And so, I think that's going to happen.
And that was on multiple things, right? Like the fact that what happened with water was put into Biden's infrastructure bill. So
Absolutely.
it went from a local policy to a national policy. And that was direct, like when the late Congressman Donald Payne was on, he told us explicitly about conversations he had with Nancy Pelosi to put what went on in Newark into the federal budget and how those conversations did change. And there was I think $36 billion that was put in the federal budget in the infrastructure bill to provide public money to change privately owned lead-lined water lines.
Absolutely. It saved me $14,000.
Jonathan, can you repeat the question you was asking? Because I want to make sure that I heard the question that you were asking right. Because from what Al's saying and what I was thinking, I'm looking at two different responses. So what?
It seems like there is not a named ideology. Like when Alturrick was talking about New York, people talk about democratic socialism. Right. And that's a term that represents a particular ideology, and it's a shortcut. And people kind of know that if you are supporting, if you're in DSA, then there are certain policies that are going to be attached to it.
Right.
I think that Baraka has. I mean, there is an ideology behind it. I don't know if it's named, and I don't know if it is named in a way that's easy to digest. But I think it's important, especially because this may be the last time that Baraka runs. But many of us like the policies that he stood for. Right. We think that they're important. We think that the Office of Violence Prevention is important. We think that the work that he's doing to try to keep people in their homes is important. We think that the pushback against the unchecked forces of capitalism inside of Newark are important. They've just not been blatantly named. Do you think that it is necessary at some point to have, like the Black Panthers had a multiple point program, like that there are, and so people know the policies that they don't just know the ideology, they know the practical policies that are attached to that ideology. Do you think that is something that potentially was missing in the last election and something that probably needs to be developed before the next?
Yeah, I to be honest with you, listen, we got 5 Black women building a building downtown the city of Newark. That's the ideology that we need. And you know what I'm saying? But I call that progressive. I've always thought that Mayor Baraka was a progressive. I think it is progress. And I think he believed that. It is progress to have 5 Black women to be able to build a building downtown. I think it is progress to now remove lead pipes or be able to remove lead pipes legally through the public money from residents' water. I think he believed that it is progress to have the Office of Violence Prevention, where he has community people, he has counselors working alongside police officers, community actors working along police officers to help lower crime. I think he just thinks that's progress. I don't necessarily believe it's any ideology other than Raz Baraka is a community person. He was an activist. He was someone that was on the side of protesting, and he believes in progress for people. No matter if you're an immigrant, you know what I'm saying? No matter if you Black, no matter if you white, no matter if you Latino, no matter if you're a woman, female, you know what I'm saying? Whatever in your community, I think he believes that you deserve progress, that there has to be progress with these issues that affect us in our community. And I think he's moved towards those issues to make sure that there's progress before he leaves. I don't necessarily believe that you should label what he's doing, only because unfortunately, if you do that, then if he does decide to leave, that would die with him. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want that. And the reality of them, I want people that come behind him to understand that what he was making progress. And I'm gonna say it again. I don't believe that is different than Donna Jackson ideology. You know what I'm saying? Donna Jackson just had the ability on the other side to come in and point out what is wrong. You know what I'm saying? But the mayor didn't disagree with her about what is wrong, by the way. You know what I'm saying? And but he also understands that it takes time and you have to continuously chip away to make those things better. That is what progress is about. So I don't think his ideology is anything other than that. And I think that those running in 2030 should make sure that they have it. I don't believe that you should label any ideology based on an individual, or rather, you know what I'm saying, that individual is going to be able to continue that we leave or not. We should continue progress when the mayor leaves.
So Rahman, to support what you're saying, I think that is it sensible politics that I think today has been termed as, progressive politics, right? Yeah. So one of the things that he talked about 12 years ago, and his father talked about years ago, is income diversity, right? How do we get more Black and brown people to have a greater portion of the wealth? Whether it's through vendor procurement, whether it's through purchasing, buying where you live. I mean, people call that a philosophy in terms of ensuring that, we diversify the income and wealth, right? How do we able to put more money in the pockets of people? Well, increasing the minimum wage. That was one of the big fights that happened. How do we protect the resources that currently exist in this municipality? Well, protect the water, provide housing, protect the land, right? And I think that has been wrapped itself into practical politics that happen at a local level. The other part of it is that, housing is not housing is a need, and how do we ensure that we're able to provide affordable housing in the city? They talked about this in the inauguration, talked about leading up to the inauguration, identifying the AMI, addressing the AMI. It may not work for this municipality because it doesn't meet our issues regarding income, and the residents are directly impacted by that, right? And so I think today we label that as progressive politics or part of democratic socialism. But the reality is a sensible politics if you are listening to the constituents that you're governing. And I think it's easy to call it part of a DSA, but it's really sensible politics that people, if you've been working in a municipality where you're not a part of the income disparity, you're not a part of the income generation portion of the municipality. You say, well, listen, I live here. I want to be a part of the process. I want to be able to make those decisions on behalf of my children, but also the children yet unborn. And I think that that's what's happened in the city, and it's now been labeled as a progressive politics. But it's been, if you're listening to the people that you're governing, I think that's been happening for years. And I think that's what people vote. That's the reason why people got excited about this administration. And that's why they voted for him.
I think part of what I'm talking about translates into what's going on with our Congresswoman LaMonica McIver. She believes in many of the same things, right? Like she has, in my opinion, her worldview is very similar, which is why she's being persecuted by the federal government. She believes in the way in which there have to be dignity for immigrants, and that she was going to fight for constitutional rights. I think that what she is doing is consistent with all that. And the only thing that I was saying in that last conversation is that at some point, I think because it's easy for people to get in positions, and we know that, again, with the congressman's position, what position she's in right now, part of it is because many of us, or many elected officials, when they had the chance, backed a particular judge who looked like us, but his ideology was different, right? Clearly, right? Like I think that, and again, I'm not speaking ill, I'm just, as an observation, his ideology is not consistent with Baraka's ideology, not consistent with LaMonica's, mine, yours, right? It didn't match the community. So we looked at someone who had a face like ours, and we promoted him to a position, and his decisions did not reflect that, which is why he ended up essentially siding with the Trump administration. And in my opinion, worsening allowing the Justice Department to deal in persecution over prosecution.
Yeah.
I think to some extent, knowing that people stand for something before we push them in a position isn't just important in that particular judge's case or any of the appointments that get made by politicians, but it's also going to translate into people who are running in 2030, right? Like what do they stand for? Is it they have to do more than look like us or say that they're progressive? There has to be something that's ideological that we can see.
Well, I agree with you. I think that that's the reason why Donna won, right? I mean, when you look at, you say what you want, we can be upset because I'm upset about some things she said, especially
Right.
about me. But the reality of the matter is, you know who you're getting, and people knew who they were getting, and they still voted for her. And that's because, like you said, they understand what her ideology is. She proved it before she ran. She didn't just say, I am going to do this. People already knew what she was doing. They said, that's acceptable to me. Now, I might not agree with some of those folks, you know what I'm saying, in that decision. But the reality is that there's enough people that did believe that, you know what I'm saying, what her positions, her ideology is acceptable, and that they wanted her elected, and that's what they did. They elected her. So I agree. I think that people should know, but they should know based on your deeds. And the reason why the mayor is in office, because his deeds, people knew who he was before they elected him. Mm-hmm. And so those deeds existed way before. I mean, we lost how many elections, Tariq? I mean, I was winning 98. We lost 98, 2002, 2004, 2004, 2002, 2006, and he won in 2000. He lost in 94. I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's 16 years.
Yes,
so,
and
in the meantime, you still understood who he was, because in between the time he was running, he was still out there doing and showing what his policies would be and what he will be doing once he get in office. And I'm gonna be very clear, he has not changed that. You know what I'm saying? I don't, people because things aren't perfect for you, because he has not switched things up for you. And some of it is what Donna said, accountability, by the way, just so we clear. You know, I'm glad she's saying it, because maybe they'll take it from her better than they take it from one of us. You know what I'm saying? Some of it is accountability to who you are and the things that you do for yourselves. You know what I'm saying? The government just can't do it all the time. And the deal is, I don't believe I would not be there if I thought for 1 minute that he changed the ideology that I liked in 1994 when he ran. You know what I'm saying? In 1994. Now, that don't mean that me and the mayor agree. Me and the mayor probably agree 95% of the time. But there's the 5% that me and don't agree with. But the reality is, I don't agree with, I don't know if I agree with my mama 95% of the time. So as long as you are on board, you know what I'm saying, with the things that I believe in, he's been on board, and I'm definitely for people. Listen, at the end of the day, I think that he should be there, and I think his ideology should stick around long after he leaves and decides to walk away from this office, because I think he's done a great job. And whoever picks up, and rather it's going to be a Donna sitting there or anybody else sitting there, I hope they continue on the progress that this man has made and believe in the things that he put forth.
But John, I think you were talking about even locally, but also a nationwide, issue regarding the Democratic Party. And I'm gonna just take it from a different perspective. And I think part of is that even what's happening in New York and what's happening throughout the country in terms of like the Democratic Party reshaping itself to form exactly how it's going to look going forward, which led to the current judge that was appointed, by the Biden administration. He was appointed by the Biden administration, not the Trump administration, the Biden administration. I think part of what's happening right now, the Democratic Party is reshaping itself, around policies that it typically would have taken on. But I also want to say there's a little pushback, that I kind of want to share, is that absolutism, right? And so, like, it seems like the Democrats, or the more vocal members of the Democratic Party, doesn't believe what Rahman expressed, 95 and 5. It's 100 or 0. And I think what happened was that a lot of people who are anti, they were saying, well, Biden is a warmonger. And so at Biden, if you have another 4 years of Biden and or any of Biden acolyte, which was Kamala Harris, we're going to get more of what we got under the previous 4 years. So either they didn't vote or they supported the Trump administration, which now that we see, there is no LaMonica being arrested at Delaney Hall if there was no Trump being elected as president. And that includes
because there would have been no Delaney Hall.
I'm sorry?
Because there would have been no Delaney Hall. Like
there's no
the idea of private prisons
no Delaney Hall.
actually ratcheted up after Trump was reelected.
Absolutely.
Like the price of private prisons, the stock rose because the Justice Department previously had phased out private prisons or the use of private prisons on the federal level.
And I think part of it is that, so like I know you and I, with myself, Rahman, and we were going back and forth regarding regarding the situation with the Hakeem Jeffries running for Congress here in New York. I mean, right now, when I say here, I'm actually in Harlem right now, enjoying a good evening, in the amazing city. But we were talking about like the people deciding whether Hakeem stays or leaves. And I thought that I would never vote against my personal interest because of one issue. It's bigger than the issues as to why Hakeem Jeffries ran for elected office.
But I think what the issue that I have with the Hakeem is what Jonathan said. I don't know what he stands for. You know what I'm saying? I know what he say he stands for, but I don't know that he stands for that because I don't see it. And so I listen, I support the change that has happened in the Democratic Party. It does need shaking up. I think for years that the Democrat, listen, when I was in labor, I was very close to the National Party, you know what I'm saying, being a labor leader. And, I thought, listen, all my time spent there dealing with that politic, I've always expressed the desire to say that this has to change. There's too much complacency here. You know what I'm saying? That we've gotten comfortable in positions and seats, and we don't believe that we have to work hard for them. Because of that, we don't push hard enough. It's not that we wouldn't vote on the issues. It's that I don't think that we push far enough or hard enough to ensure that it happens. And so, listen, the whole Hakeem Jeffries thing to me isn't the fact that rather he should stay on there. I'm going to leave that up to the people the Congress people who's going to be elected. The point that I'm saying is I really don't know what he stands for. I know what he say he stands for. You know what I'm saying? But I don't really know that, and I think that is important that what Jonathan say, that we have somebody, you say what you want about these right-wing fanatics, but you know what they are. People voted for it, like Jonathan said. People knew Trump was going to put private prisons when they voted for him. He know what they was going to do with immigration when they voted for him. So you could criticize that, but the reality of the matter is at least you understood. People went to the polls consciously understanding that. I don't know what Hakeem Jeffries stands for. So here's the leader or not is not, up to me, because if they become the majority, it will be a Democrat that's elected. I don't want us to get caught. The point I'm trying to not get caught up in is say, oh, we definitely have to get it because he'll be the first black speaker. I'm not going with that this time. I think I want to make sure that whoever the speaker is, whatever color they are, because I didn't, whatever color they are, that they doing the job that's necessary.
So here's the balance, Rahman, here's the balance that I think that we had the challenge, right? And you're a person that understands politics. Seniority in Congress matters, right? Yeah. And so we can say, well, we want to change a senior leadership in Congress, but you also lose the importance of appointments, seats, and controlling the finances of government. It happened when Charlie Rangel was supposed to be taking over for House and Ways and Means Committee. Many people felt outside of what happened, to censor him, then remove him, from that elected office, you lose a seat. And so the bigger point I'm saying is that that you can actually challenge your elected officials. You can actually help them arrive at a different opinion. But I think right now, this absolutism that's happening in the Democratic Party, or more people are more comfortable in the Democratic Party to talk about fellow Democrats, but forget who their actual opponent is, who actually does not care whether you're socialist or a moderate. They just don't want a Democrat to be in that particular seat. They're expanding Republican seats all throughout the country. And you see people fighting against each other amongst Democrats saying, well, if you take X amount of money, right? Or you have a position that has yet to evolve, that we're going to completely remove you, and we're going to go from a senior level position to a junior level position and start all over and try to work our ways into those senior level opportunities. And that's kind of what I'm seeing throughout the country, is that we're having Democrats challenging one another, but they're unwilling to go to Republican spaces and offer the same critique and the same vocalism and the same direct energy amongst people who actually supported Donald Trump and his MAGA policies.
I think that there's a difference between the primaries and the general. I think in the primaries, if somebody wants to primary Jeffries, go at it, right? Get the support, get the votes. That's where you communicate and try to shape your party. And then after the primary is over, then I agree with you, right? Like then you vote for the person you most rather fight, right? Like if you lose the primary, like I supported the mayor very, very vocally in the primaries when he was running for governor. After he ended up losing the primary, we waited a bit, but we knew we were going to vote for the person we most rather fight, because we didn't want anybody who was agreeing that ICE was a good thing to be governor of New Jersey. And I think that when he lost, like when the Republican in New Jersey lost overwhelmingly, I think that wasn't like, oh, we love the current governor. It was, we voted for the one we'd most rather fight if we need to fight on certain issues. I think that's the same thing with Jeffries, right? Like, I think that if a lot of people have problems with him, I think have at it in the primary. Go at it. That's the time to do it. In the general, that would be the time to.
But I don't think people, Jonathan, I don't think people oppose him in the general. I think they oppose him for speaker. And I think that if you're a congressperson, that you have a right, because if they do take over, if the Democrats take over the Congress, which my assumption is that's what's going to happen, from what I see, unless something drastically changes, whoever's elected is going to be a Democrat. They're not going to elect a Republican.
Oh, that's true.
They're going to elect a Democrat. The point that the question ain't rather you would vote for Hakeem if there was a Republican or Hakeem. Of course you'll vote. I vote for Hakeem all day for that. But now when it comes to speaker, I'm talking about something different, because the reality of the matter is I don't think that he is convincing. I'm sorry, I don't believe that. And I'm, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Listen, I've never been the party guy. You know what I'm saying? I've always been the guy that's going to critique. I'm going to play the ref here. And I'm playing the ref here. When Hakeem Jeffries speak, I don't believe him. You know what I'm saying? And because I don't believe him, and I'm a Democrat and I'm a progressive, I'm sure a lot of people feel the way I feel. You know what I'm saying? And so that is what is challenging him, or rather he should be the party leader or not, is that people rather believe, is he going to be a strong enough leader to lead? Now, listen, if he gets the leadership, then I'm 100% behind Hakeem. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. But I welcome anyone who is willing to challenge him, even if it puts him on his heels, where he now have to listen to make sure that you're going to be a stronger fighter to get things done. I think accountability is important. I think when we sit there and believe that we have to get it or it's owed to us, is when we get this complacent attitude that we don't have to be as strong as we could be in those positions.
I know that we only have about 10 minutes left. And I know you wanted to get to talking about the BET Awards and Young Miami and what was going on there. Who was an excellent actress, actually, because I believe she was in the Issa Rae show. It was called Rap Shit, and it was an excellent show. I think they did 2 seasons of it. They might have done 3, but it was an excellent show, excellent actress. And so I know that you had some comments on it. I think I want to start off by just saying this. Do you think C. Dolores Tucker was right? Listen,
I said it back then that C. Dolores Tucker was right. I didn't appreciate what NWA was saying back, you know what I'm saying, when we was growing up. I didn't appreciate that stuff. But the reality of the matter is, like NDRE was saying, there's an audience for it, right? And that she understands that some people aren't, you know, people mistaken, they not understanding what she's saying. What she's saying is when you embrace that music, when you embrace that type of lifestyle, then what she is saying is that you're not, you don't want to be free, because clearly that is a road to being incarcerated or maybe having a record, you know what I'm saying, on yourself. It is not a road to be successful or to brag about, even if you're going to do, because I hear people all the time say to me, I have a few people come to me talking about, oh, well, we don't say nothing about the white folks who do it, they've been doing all that. They're not writing songs bragging that they're doing it. They're not telling on themselves. You know what I'm saying?
They're not self-snitching.
Yes. If you're doing it, then listen, I don't need to know that. Do what you got to do. But the point that she's trying to make is, should we embrace it as part of our culture? Because clearly we know that the more people that do that, the more we embrace that type of activity in our culture, the more of us that's going to be locked up with a record. So say what you want about it. Yes, the beat might be, I think it's a corny song, but people love it. Listen, algorithm can make you like anything. You know what I'm saying? So, but I don't really even think, I really don't even think the song is a good song, but people like the song. The reality, though, is the message of the song is a problem. And all we can guarantee from that's the song, because Young Miami is not boosting. Young Miami is not scamming. You know what I'm saying? She can afford these things. Oh, and by the way, if you took Young Miami's credit card or tried to take her account and scam her, she would be very upset with you too, by the way. You know what I'm saying? But the reality is, what we can guarantee that will happen by embracing the lyrics of that song in our culture, or as using it as being acceptable, that more of us, more black and brown people, will be incarcerated because of that behavior. Now, like she said, no one's going to listen to her. They're not going to take her words. They're not going to do it, whether she say it or not. But what she's saying is, because of that she realized that it's a deeper problem with us than she thought. But to be honest with you, I thought that back when NWA was singing F the Police.
Now, and I think that there's also a deeper issue, or another parallel issue to this, and that in our community, we know that when we try to open shops and stores, like, you know, that one of the major concerns becomes security, becomes how are you securing what you're securing. If you want to open a shop, you want to open a nightclub, you want to open certain things in certain parts of the city, it's very difficult because the insurance is higher, right? Like the ways of doing business, I mean, the good business in your community is harder. Do you think that aspect of, if you're trying to develop certain corridors of even your city, that there are certain behaviors that are glorified that make it more difficult for us to develop the stuff that we need to develop?
Yeah, I don't think Rahman can afford scammers to be the message, because it can't sustain his business, because it hurts him as a small business owner, and it impacts his ability to hire locally and expand his brand. But I think right now it's almost like, when you're young, you don't have a global or a larger perspective. So when I was reading Rahman's conversation with a person who's also in the same age bracket, I was just thinking to myself, at some point we grow up, right? And when I was 20, in fact, the matter is, when I was young, I used to look outside the window of Camden Middle, and I used to see people steal cars and make donuts in the parking lot, right? In the playground. I ran to the window, it was exciting. But in hindsight, it was dangerous and people get killed. And so I would never say, well, because I can't critique it, I didn't critique it when I was 14 years old, doesn't mean I can't be critical of it at 40 something years old. It's a ridiculous conversation. We grow, we're in a different phase of our life. And when you become older, you give wisdom to a younger audience that may not understand the global perspective of what they see in front of them. And I think people misunderstand NDRE's message and her journey. She's always been counterculture and been about music that has went to fulfill the soul of the people who listen to it. But the other part of it is that just because I don't like the artwork that you put out there doesn't mean I hate the artist. And I think you have to stop getting into this personality defense and this personality attack. People artists put out artwork, right? That artwork can be murals, that artwork can be music, it can be whatever. And me as a person who watches or listens to the art, I have an opportunity to offer criticism or celebration. And I think what happens with this generation, sometimes I become offended if I say, you know what, I like you, but I just don't like the work that you do. And they get offended by it. And I think that we have to be able to become more diverse in our conversation to appreciate that that just because I don't like your artwork doesn't mean I don't like you as an artist. And it's not called hating someone. That means that what you're saying, I just don't either understand, I don't agree, or maybe the message may not be something that we should promote because it could be exploitive as well.
I think one thing to add to the conversation, I put on the title for this particular section, I put Clive Davis and the Harvard Report, because I think that when we're talking about music and we talk about art, and we should really keep those things in mind, as in Black people were making a lot of money off of Black music in the 50s and 60s, and Clive Davis was like, how can I get some of that? Had his friends at Harvard Business School come up with a report, and part of the report goes back to what we were talking about before, as in you have a Black face who may become a judge, right? But doesn't reflect your ideology. It was, you have Black people to get talent, procure it, and you bring them back for your company, but you can now then control and mold the message. The messages that were a lot of grassroots messages that were positive, that were like, that were about community uplift, that easily becomes changed now that the owners of the company, like she works for a company that's ultimately who she signed for is Universal Records, right? Like it's Uptown Records, and we all think, oh, Uptown Records, Andre Harrell, all the other stuff. But they're owned by another group that's owned by more like basically white billionaires who put out this music, who are okay with it. So it's not something, so I think that we should always keep in mind that even though she looks like us, even though the art is not supposed to represent us, it's not made, it doesn't necessarily come from our community. These are things that are being pushed on us as well.
But beyond the record labels, though, the algorithm is pushing it. You know what I'm saying? The tech giants are pushing it. So you don't necessarily, the record labels don't even, they don't have to make those decisions no more. Like, you know, like Al said, I like Young Miami. I do. You know what I'm saying? I think I like the City Girls as a music group. But I think when it comes to this song, when it comes to the algorithm, now we got tech giants that can push your message out to who they want. And a lot of them want to push that message because they want to distract us from what's happening, you know what I'm saying, around us. The reality is that embracing this lyric, because what we do in hip hop, what we do as Black people when it comes to hip hop, we embrace our lyrics, our music as part of our culture. And the reality, when you start talking about scamming and boosting or whatever, yes, it's being done. She's not saying nothing that's not being done. I don't disagree with that. You know what I'm saying? But the reality of the matter is, do we have to talk about it? You know what I'm saying? Do we have to put it out there to make it seem as if it's a cool thing to do? Because now that you put it in lyrics, people looking at it, I mean, they think it's cool. So now you're gonna have people scamming, you're gonna have people getting themselves in trouble, people going out there trying to boost, because now they're trying to duplicate what they think is cool in this music. I mean, there was just a story about two young ladies that was playing the music, they was boosting, they got caught, they went to jail. I forget what
because they put it online.
They put it online. You know what I'm saying? So they bragging about what they were boosting, and they dumb behinds wound up getting caught. But the problem here is that once we do that as part of the culture, then it impacts our community negatively. And that is what NDRE was saying, is like, why we can't just be more embracive of positive things? Why we can't make that more of a hit song about positive uplifting, like the mayor said at his speech about Public Enemy. You know what I'm saying? And the first album that was done. Like, why we can't embrace that type of music that uplift us, and we always got to make the most popular thing scamming and stealing and my coochie is the wettest and all this other craziness, when reality, what we should be doing is trying to talk about ownership and, you know what I'm saying, success and how we achieve success, which is what a lot of the hip hop back in our growth was about, until the things from the West Coast came out about the whole thing. It's one thing to be a storyteller, Jonathan, and because I think people say, well, it's after the Q. Listen, you know, you had music that was storytelling that talked about the ills of the community, but they didn't promote it as if it was good. They just told, it was just telling the story. Unfortunately, we allow for music to get into a point of a promotion as if what you're doing isn't a problem. You know what I'm saying? Not just telling the story. And that's, you know, to me, that's where the issue comes from. So listen, kudos to Young Miami for having a hit, because people say, oh, that she jumped. Listen, kudos to the success. Reality of the matter, though, is it is going to harm your community. Now, you don't have to want to accept that, but I'm telling you, based on the fact that we got people who are going to believe that scamming and boosting is a good thing to do. Yes, even though it's already occurring in our community, now you're going to have more people trying it. Oh, and by the way, now you know woke up people to look out for it. So now they're going to be looking for people to do these things.
So this is the other thing I found interesting. Sometimes art informs the public, but it also does the opposite as well. Just because someone says that scamming is popular doesn't mean I start scamming. And I think that it's interesting because it seems like in our culture, we have made, you know, our music a defining point of how we should view ourselves, you know, how we act towards or interact with the world, whether we accept crime or we promote crime. What I think also is interesting is I think NDRE wasn't really talking about Young Miami in particular. She was talking about the audience's appetite, because capitalism feeds off of, you know, what the marketplace wants, right? Either you control the marketplace or you give the marketplace exactly what it wants. It wants this sort of music. It wants this sort of dysfunction that is being promoted, you know, and it feeds off of it, and it gives the beast exactly what it needs over and over and over again. And whether that beast can be, you know, music that came out when Foxy Brown and you know, you got a lot of the sisters that was putting music out, a lot of brothers that was putting music out, you know, when they were beginning of hip hop music or predates hip hop music. It just feeds the beast. And I think part of it is that the music is reflecting on what we want, what we, like Rahman is saying, what we accept. And the other part of it informs the public about what we are allowing our folks to do and promote. But I think the other part is that it's music at the end of the day. And if we can tell young people or tell our people at the end of the day, it's just like watching Al Pacino in The Godfather. It's just like watching Al Pacino didn't play Cuban in Carlito's Way, or then Al Pacino playing, you know, a white detective in Heat. It's all fiction. It ain't real, you know, and it's not harmful, and it should just be used for entertainment purposes. And it's none of that stuff is informative about how you should actually live your life.
I know that we're reaching the end of this particular segment, but I just want to just give a final word to either of you, especially in light of Amiri Baraka, Raz Baraka both talk about culture and the power of culture, talk about art and poetry and how those define our people being culture. So I'll leave either of you with the last word as we're moving to the end of the segment.
Al, you want to go first? Al, what are you, quiet? He froze?
Oh, okay, so he's frozen, but he's back. Now he's still frozen. All right, so, okay, he's back. All right.
Go ahead, Al.
All right.
I didn't hear the question because I was muted for a moment, so I didn't hear the question.
Oh, it was really just the power of culture to define. We saw, I mean, Amiri Baraka wrote about this, Raz Baraka talks about all the time, the power of culture to define reality, our reality. And I think that's what a lot of people are talking about, especially in light of we're going through a second Reconstruction. So it seems to be a lot more intense now. In light of that, do you have any final words as we close out this segment?
I think Zay put up there which was a great point. I forgot to mention it about the power of culture and the Black arts movement that happened in the 70s and how it revolutionized and excited people to take ownership of their community. So art can be very powerful in the hands of those who can use it to express their power. It can be very dangerous for those who don't have power and suppress people, as Rahman has expressed during this conversation that's currently being used at this moment. I think we have to use art, and I think our artists should find new challenges rather than a commerce challenge, to figure how can we talk about ourselves in a different way than what's currently popularized throughout the mediums that we currently listen to. And I think the other part of it is that us as consumers, we also have to buy, support, and celebrate music that recognize our greatness, that politically inform us, but also give us strategies out of difficult situations. At the same time, allow us the opportunity to vent about the issues that surround us as well.
So let me say that I think Amiri, Baraka, and Raz is right that culture, art is part of our culture, and we embrace that in our culture. And the problem is that culture is something that we generally mimic, and so that's why you have to be careful about what you put inside of your community as it pertains to art. You know what I'm saying? Listen, my wife this morning was singing "Spin That." You know what I'm saying? But here's the difference. You know what I'm saying? My wife understands it's just a song to her. Yeah. It's entertainment to her. You know what I'm saying? She's a successful Black woman. She has a master's degree. She's a lieutenant colonel in the Army and maybe a colonel one day. Her generals are now trying to keep her to stay in the Army so she can become a colonel. She's a business owner. You know what I'm saying? So she is able to understand between fiction and nonfiction. You know what I'm saying? She's able to understand reality and this dream world that you want to live. She can discern between the difference, right? But unfortunately, our young folks, some of them don't discern the difference. And they begin to mimic the art that we are putting into our culture. And so we have to be careful. I wish we can put a label on the Miss Miami song and say for adult ears only. You know what I'm saying? Those who understand this is just music. I wish we could do that, but we can't. It's out in the airwaves. And because it's out in the airwaves, there's a lot of young, impressionable minds hearing that. And when they hear that and they believe that it's a cool thing, people are going to grow up with this song in their head. Once it becomes a hit like that, it's in their head. They're singing this on a regular basis. And we don't want people to mimic that behavior because we don't want them to go and be incarcerated or get a record. Because if you scam, the potential of you going to jail is there. If you boost, the potential of you going to jail is there. So we have to ensure that we are careful about the art that we put into culture.
Yeah. And thank you both, right, for this week. We are going to have more of a lively discussion coming in the first Friday of next month. Thanks again, Rahman Muhammad, Alturrick Kenney.
Jonathan, hold on one second. Yeah? Before I get off, I wanted to say rest in peace to our brother Jimmy in the city of Newark, who unfortunately passed, and to Sister Khadijah Farrakhan. I wanted to say as well, rest in paradise to that beautiful Black woman. And 74 years of marriage, brother. 74 years of marriage, man. Could you imagine that? Knowing some, I'm only on 20. My 20 plus my 30 plus your 20. It's not even the half of the marriage between the Minister Farrakhan and your two. 70. That's probably one of the greatest models that you ever could follow is the marriage between Minister Farrakhan and his beautiful wife Khadijah. So I want to say peace and paradise to that beautiful Black woman.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you. And until next week, see you soon.
Peace.
All right, man. Dr.
Howdy.
Todd Stephen Burroughs.
Howdy.
How are you?
I'm fine. It's summertime. X-Men 97 is fantastic this second season. And Donna Jackson's on the city council. I mean, I'm going to have to start watching council meetings again. That's going to be very interesting.
Right.
That's going to be very interesting. So no, I'm just reading and writing and being broke and being a historian.
Being brilliant.
And no. I'm less than a footnote on the history of failure at this point in my career, but I've just enjoyed such consistency, and that's what I'm doing, right? So I bothered you because I thought this Ta-Nehisi Coates article was interesting to talk about because it talks about our favorite topics: Kamala Harris, Gaza, the Democratic Party. And, you had a conversation in the last hour in which you talked about, maybe we have to take our practical acts and explain the ideology behind them to the people, which I thought was an interesting idea. And that, in this kind of city that is, either post-literate or illiterate, depending on how you define it, that those kind of things might have to be done. So I bothered you because, I don't know who's going to read these 7,000 words that Coates has written. But I thought they were important enough to discuss in the forum. And so you were kind enough, and Brother Zaid was kind enough to allow me on to do it. Brother Zaid, how are you doing? Okay.
So can you break down that Ta-Nehisi Coates recently wrote an article in Vanity Fair that talked about whether Gaza was the reason why Kamala Harris lost the election. And
I've been saying that.
But it seems like a deeper reflection on some really painful parts of the amount of gains
with the
that
damn
Black women
Democratic
made
Party.
under. But I'm saying that the amount of practical gains that Black women gained under the Biden administration, and how the Biden administration had actually practically done what Black people have been wanting to be done for years in terms of actual, tangible, material. Well,
but it wasn't labeled a Black agenda, John, which is your point that you made in the last hour. Imagine if those things had been. Imagine if there had been a press conference, and it would have said, "Biden has implemented the Black agenda, and here it is." But we didn't have that, which goes to
and nobody would know that, right? So
that goes to your point, right?
So let's start to break this down, because I think that
before we do that, because I know you want to break it down, let me just say, okay, our audience might not know who Ta-Nehisi Coates is, right?
Right.
Please, I'm about to go in.
Ta-Nehisi Coates is a magazine writer. He's the son of a Black Panther, Paul Coates, who is the head of Black Classic Press. I know Paul Coates personally. By the way, he's 80 years old. So we're saying happy birthday to him. He's a former Black Panther, and
happy birthday.
And he had
Baltimore chapter,
press, one of the few independent Black press publishing houses that exist. Ta-Nehisi Coates has had a long career in magazine journalism, and instead of describing that, I'm going to point to a video I did a year ago on Dr. Ball's site, I Mix What I Like. If anybody's interested in finding out about Ta-Nehisi Coates' career and how he fits in the context of Black writing, which is a long discussion, just type in my name and what is the message in YouTube, and you'll see a 2-hour video I did with Jared Ball a year ago, in which I go into Ta-Nehisi Coates in detail, in social context and political context and in literary context. So Coates found a way, and I'm being very polite here because this is a polite forum. Coates found a way to describe the African American experience in a way that the white literary community needed to hear it or wanted to hear it. He's become a multimillionaire because of it. And he took time out of his 6-figure job at Howard University as a endowed chair in the English department, even though he has no degree. See, this is the kind of trajectory he's been on. He took time out of that to make $10,000, right? To write this article for Vanity Fair. Now, if anybody's annoyed with that, if anybody thinks that's not even a proper construction in which to have this discussion, I do understand. Josie Gonsalves is coming up at 7:45. You can go to the bathroom, you can go take a snack, you can go get a snack or whatever, and come back at 10:45, right? But I think, regardless of Ta-Nehisi Coates' contradictions, what he's pointed out in this article is very significant. So I'm going to give not a summary, but my summary of the article. And then I know me and Zaid and Jonathan will chow this up and we'll easily go to 7:45. Ta-Nehisi Coates is a very talented writer, so he writes on more than one level, right? So the surface level of the article is the question: did Kamala Harris's position on Gaza cost him the election?
Yes.
And Coates makes the argument that yes, it did, right? But Ta-Nehisi Coates goes a bit deeper, and this is something that I haven't seen people discuss in the article. And Jonathan, if you've read it another way, we can argue about which way is correct or which way should be looked at first or second or whatever. But he also points out, because he takes as the framework for the article the struggle of Black women, the political struggle of Black women. And he focuses on Fannie Lou Hamer. And he talks about how there's a group of Black women who consider themselves the heirs of Fannie Lou Hamer, and they are leaders in the Democratic Party. And their struggle within the Democratic Party for social justice results in Kamala Harris becoming the vice presidential candidate, and they pull her forward, right? So everyone is claiming the Black radical, right, while being in the moderate to conservative spot. I mean, at 2026, I got to be honest, I call the Democratic Party a conservative party, and I call the Republican Party a radical party, because they actually have a radical agenda that they've implemented, right? And on the Democratic side, we're still waiting for that particular agenda, right? And Coates, to go back to the point Jonathan was making, Coates makes the argument early on that the Black women did get a Black agenda implemented, but it wasn't discussed as that. There were no dashikis involved. There was no freeing of political prisoners. There was no free education or free healthcare, right? But it was, from the point of view of the Democratic Party, a radical agenda. So what Coates says...
And also just on that, I think that he says that it was something tangible because the actual wealth of Black women significantly increased during that administration. So it wasn't symbolic, it wasn't performative. I thought that was a very important part of the article, because it goes back to like Susan Rice's role in the administration in terms of a policy advisor, what he was actually doing when he was saying that he was going to forgive student loans, which I think was a large part of it. Like my wife, she was freed up of close to $200,000 worth of debt because student loans were forgiven, right? And across my feed, I saw Black woman after Black woman after Black woman talking about 100,000, taking pictures of their $100,000 debt that went up in smoke, right? Like, so these are things that were devised to help specifically the demographic of Black women economically, and those things actually did show up tangibly as a result.
And Coates says that, but then, and this is where I know Zaid would be interested, but he then goes into the price of that ticket. And he goes into a whole history. Zaid, this is a major white elite magazine. I've never seen a writer go 3,000 words into the story of the American Empire before in a major white magazine. He does. He goes straight into America as an empire, America's on white supremacy, theft of land, blah, blah, blah. And then he says, so the price of the ticket, the price of getting entry into America, the price of getting entry to having that agenda passed is ignoring Gaza. Now, in my more snarky, radical edge, which again, you can see on the I Mix What I Like video, I talk about how what writers have to do to get accepted by these major publications and all that. And it's very clear they have to ignore some things. And Ta-Nehisi Coates talks about how he had to ignore some things to be a writer, and he had to make some compromises with himself and write about how he had a crush on Condoleezza Rice and all this kind of crazy stuff that you get to be accepted by these people. And I argue with some snarkiness, but I think some correctness, that once he became a millionaire, that freed him up to go and really write. Now, he became a millionaire by writing a book called Between the World and Me, which talks very eloquently about racism, but then says at the end of it, but there's really nothing we can do about it. So, just kind of cope with it. And this was like 15 months before Black Lives Matter. Had Black Lives Matter come out before he wrote that book, I think it would have been a very different ending, right? But to get the coach, so now he feels, the 6-figure position at Howard and all that, he feels free, and now he's made Gaza a main topic of his writing. So there's a book he wrote a year ago called The Message, which is a collection of essays, new essays that he wrote, and his main essay is about 10 days he spent in Gaza, and he just straight up sounded like a leftist, sounded like the son of a Black Panther, said, it's an apartheid state, the Gazans are being oppressed, and we are participating in it. And so in this article, he says that the price of these Black women getting what they want, and by the way, I have to point out that, he conveniently forgets that Fannie Lou Hamer, who is everybody's hero in the Black Democratic Party among Black women, we forget that, she rejected the compromise.
Yes, she did.
Of the people of her day. So the Obamas of their day, of the Susan Harris, the Susan Rices of their day, she rejected that and said, we didn't do all of this for no 2 seats, right? Okay. So he conveniently forgets that. It's very convenient. And I think it's important to point out. But Coates says painfully that this is the price of being in America in 2026. We have to accept the empire and accept our role in it. And I just want to read the last couple of paragraphs because I know Zaid's going to love these last couple of paragraphs. Zaid, now you would think you would have written this, Zaid. Listen to this, right? After going into Kamala Harris's background, in which Coates is saying that she knows better, right? She knows better, but she hasn't done better on Gaza. She knows better, right? Just like many of us for 8 years talked about that we knew Barack Obama knew better and wouldn't do better, right? So here's what she said. Here's what he says at the end of the article. Listen to this, Zaid. And that story forces a very basic question. What was the point of all this? Why the invocations of Tubman, the readings of Du Bois, the visits from Hamer? And did the advocates of this collective pedagogy imagine their children rising to the heights of power only to view the darker nations of the world through the same violent lens as their oppressors? And if they did not, if they believed that the poor and needy meant those within the empire as well as those without, then what moral mandate does that place upon their children? And if their children have come to praise, only to praise, not check empire, then why have they come at all? Now, those are bold words for Vanity Fair. Those are bold words from Vanity Fair. Now, he's answered this question in interviews, and the answer he's given is a very typical one. We have to push Kamala Harris to the left. Whoever the nominee is, we have to push them to the left, and we have to force a progressive agenda on them, and we have to hope for the best, right? And so that's where we are. And again, I think Coates, who, and I've detailed here how he is distant from the very grassroots struggle that Jonathan, you're in, and people on this show always is in, right? You guys are in direct struggle, protecting people who are vulnerable, right? And so you definitely have a different worldview and you have different questions to ask than somebody like Ta-Nehisi Coates. I think it's important that at least Ta-Nehisi Coates is using this elite forum to call out some very painful questions, right? What price victory, right? And why do we have to have a price for victory? Why can't we just force people to do the right thing and tell them if you don't do the right thing, you won't be in power? It's a very simple thing, but there are very complex consequences to it. So I just wanted to say all of that and get, the reaction of you two about it. Because to me, the article was the two different levels right there. Jonathan, you're muted.
Zaid, I'll let you go first.
I got noise in the background. I wanted you to go.
Okay, no, that's fine.
I'll jump right in. While both of you deal with noises, let me just say let me just say that I appreciate us having this discussion, and I appreciate the work you guys do, because I learn a lot from you two, because, being an academic and, so-called intellectual, so-called writer, whatever, I'm in the very abstract camp of things. And when I listen to your show, I get the very pragmatic viewpoint that I think we also have to deal with, because there's a big tension between the two, I think. So I just wanted to thank you two for providing this forum where I learn about, what's really going on with people that you guys at least have been sworn to protect, basically. Is the noise over?
Well, no, I'm fine. And I was going to say thank you, because I'm always, well, first, thank you for your words. And also, we are also always trying to get you to come on the show more often, because we value your voice too, right? Like your voice is actually an important voice, both nationally and internationally. Sure. And we definitely want to get you back on our show more often. Sure. The thing that seemed like a painful article for him to write, because he's wrestling with these things, right? Because to some extent, he wants to push the party to the left, badly. He understands that all the things that Black people, or many of the things that Black people have been fighting for in terms of having policy, very practically, very tangibly affect and change our lives, was something that the Biden administration was unique, beyond the Obama administration, right? Like the Obama administration didn't do this, but the Biden administration was very much in tune with the community groups. And we had many different community activists on over the years, and they would talk about being represented, like the ICC in Newark was represented on the presidential level and were able to influence presidential policy. We look at what happened in Newark in terms of with the water crisis and using public funds to actually get to private individuals, how our congressman was able to talk to Nancy Pelosi and put that as part of Biden's bill. So those were practical things that went into people's pockets that did that. We look at the real tangible wealth creation. And I think that's the thing that the Coates article gets into. And there were a lot of really smart people who were looking at different ways to put wealth into the Black community. And according to the Coates article, actually succeeded. And we have the anecdote. He was talking about the empirics of it. We also have the anecdotal part of it, where we look at the different people who had their student loans forgiven and what $200,000 in debt forgiveness looks like, especially when the people being forgiven are disproportionately Black women, right? And at the same time, you have what was probably the biggest fumble in American politics, definitely by any Black politician, right? And that was being too scared to speak the truth that they already knew. I know, right? Like, I don't know, but I sense that Harris is looking at the wins in New York. She is looking at how unpopular Israel is right now. She is looking at, because I know the Obama administration hated Netanyahu, right? Like, that's documented, like that code. He went and actually tried to, Netanyahu campaigned against Obama, spoke in Congress against him. No love lost by anyone in the Obama administration for Netanyahu. Harris personally did not like him. She would hint at it in interviews, right? Like, it was seething under the surface. But how can you not have a Palestinian speak at the convention? Like, to unpack the amount of chains that Black people perceived they had that they did not have. Because had that convention changed, like, they weren't, the people who are pushing a Palestinian cause in the Democratic Party were not asking for much. They were like, let us speak. You don't have to promise anything. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to do, you just need to let us speak at the convention and we'll let you choose. And when you couldn't choose a sitting congresswoman, the tent of the Democratic Party is so big, but it can't include an elected member of Congress. Like, how much do you have to spit on someone's face before you get them not to vote for you? Because you knew in Michigan, people were waiting to vote for something, right? Like, it was almost tangible. But when she did that, you're like, why? Because you don't even believe it. So the people talking about being wedded to billionaires and like, if you're a Democrat running against a fascist, you can't, and your brand is I'm for law and order, you can't not enforce what the Secretary of State is supposed to do by federal law, right? Like, if you know that they're going to be using these bombs to kill innocent people, federal law says you can't give it to them. You could have been law and order and been like, hey, we know that this is the way that's going on right now, because by that time, the evidence was there that mass murder had been committed, right? Like, whether you call it genocide or not, you know mass murder had been committed, and most of those people that were killed were kids and civilians. Like, we knew that. And to have that and to have it so constrained that you can't even have a Palestinian speak means that, and I think that the reason why many people were turned off, but I think they were turned off because now you're off brand. Now I know I can't trust Trump, but I really can't trust you either. And now,
but see, let's talk about fear, and let's talk about this locally. And now I'm going to say something very controversial that you two might not like. Okay, our reparations report is 1 year old. Okay, I did not like it. I thought it was a cowardly document.
Which one?
The reparations report, the one that the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice did.
Okay,
I thought it was a cowardly document. I said so on Facebook and pinged Hey Good. I told my own boss who worked on it, Stephanie Harris, that it was a cowardly document, right? Zaid, I have a daydream that you and I were given the appendix of it, and we wrote something called Cracker Barrel. And you know, we put in Cracker Barrel, we put in a list of every white racist official in the state that said something bad about non-white people, right? And that's my daydream. I'm happy about that. But then I think about consequences. And see, this is where we get to that fear of consequences, which is what the Democratic Party is. It's a party filled with people who are fear of consequences. Let's say Zaid and I did that, right? And we had a press conference. We listed all the names, right? All these things that, the reparations report did not want to deal with that. And by the way, I know a lot of people haven't even read it, right? I read it. I was very disappointed. I wish I hadn't read it, right? But what would have happened if Zaid and I did that, right? We would put a lot of people in physical danger. That reparations report was written in between assassination attempts. I'm stealing that from James Baldwin, right? When people used to ask him,
break that down. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
People used to ask James Baldwin, why do you take so long between novels? And he says, I'm writing in between assassinations, right? That reparations report was constructed and written during one of the most dangerous times in American history, meaning the period we just passed, where presidents were almost assassinated, where there was violence against the husband of one of the top Congress people in the country.
The House.
Right. So, like, it's a very dangerous period. And we're going to speak frankly here in New Jersey. As I tell people who don't know about New Jersey, when I explain to them that The Sopranos is a documentary series, they laugh, right? But we know that The Sopranos,
the Soprano state.
Right, we know that The Sopranos is a very real thing created by a real New Jerseyan who was analyzing real people he knew, and we also know they were giving him notes, right?
Right.
Like he had to learn. No, we don't wear shorts while barbecuing. Like, I mean, so the idea of us being in danger is a very real one, and I can't just poo-poo that off and say, well, you guys weren't radical enough with the report. because I don't have protection for them to give. Right? I can't give them guards. I can't give their kids guards to go to school with, and I can't help them if they lose their 6-figure positions by directly attacking people in power. Right? So when I look at what Coach wrote about Gaza, I see the same situation. What would that person say at the convention? What if they went off script? Would it matter if they just said what was in the lines? Would just their very presence result in a backlash? And it's fear that is making the Democratic Party a conservative party, and it's radicalism that's making the Republican Party a radical party. And I don't know how to get out of that fear because, I know I'm not in a position to protect anybody. And I know that, you folks particularly have spent your lives protecting young people, have spent your lives sheltering young people, in some cases, literally, right? And understanding that the place we live, Newark, New Jersey, the place we love, is a place of refuge and shelter, right? And you can't threaten that by going radical and going and opposing people by name, particularly not in this state. So I don't know how to solve the situation, but I think it's important to point out.
And you were making this link between that and your comments about the reparations report,
right,
with Harris and the convention,
right? Because I think it's all about fear of consequences, and that's what I see. And I don't know how we get the Democratic Party out of that.
And is that what part of it, that fear of consequences, is that? Because that seemed, even at the time, so unnecessary. Because even at the time, what Israel was doing was so radical in terms of the extreme nature of the bombings and the targeting of civilian infrastructure and civilians. I think before the election, the number was up to 70,000 officially killed, right? 70,000. We had a person, we interviewed a person.
Still killing people during a so-called ceasefire. It's a joke.
But I'm saying, even then, right? It wasn't like the numbers weren't high when she was running for office. And when you look at the number of people who were murdered, we had a person on a few weeks ago that, about a month ago, and he was he lost 200 family members. Mm-hmm. But me and Zayed stopped. We were
Lakai Cordia can say the same thing, mm-hmm, who lives just 2 towns over in Patterson, mm-hmm, and barely got out of an ICE concentration camp with her life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Yeah.
200 family members, right? And so for Harris, not at what point do you have the courage to speak? Because for me,
you ain't got the courage, go sit down. Get out the way.
It was a simple moral question, and it was a home run hit. And
Fannie Lou Hamer wasn't scared.
I think that most American Jews would have supported her in that, because Netanyahu is unpopular in the United States.
Right.
I think that they really don't I think that even in their conception, that it would be dangerous or fearful, may be anti-Semitic in and of itself.
AIPAC.
Right.
Because to think that AIPAC actually represents the majority of Jewish people and sentiment in the United States becomes something that I think is uniquely, after Black people, the people who voted for Harris the most were Jewish people, right? Black people voted for her at the rate of 90 and 80%. Jewish Americans voted for her at the level of 70%.
Because she was an AIPAC baby.
No, I think that was. She
was one of the girls.
I don't think that.
I'm sorry.
I don't think that. I'm saying that I don't think that most Jewish Americans support AIPAC. I think that
there's a bold, loud Jewish left doing civil disobedience all over this country, protesting Gaza.
And that is my point.
They took a moral position on that and saying not in that name. And any black Democrat who does not have the spine to at least respect that, would rather hang on that bloody dollar, the hell with their behind. May they get their behinds beat every time by whoever's willing to whoop their behinds at the polls. We got no use for house Negroes. We want nothing with house Negroes, no matter who is paying for the house Negroes. None.
I hear you, Zaire. I hear you.
And to your point, Zaire, I think that when people conflate the Jewish American community with AIPAC, I think that's their own brand of anti-Semitism, because I think that AIPAC represents billionaires.
We're talking about the Democratic Party.
Right? Like there are a lot of
the Democratic Party. That's
white
where they
nationalist
are.
Christians
gentlemen,
who are backing that.
But see, gentlemen, if I may, I think you're both correct, right? Zaid is correct, is that the very structure of the Democratic Party stops radical change. And Jonathan, you're correct, because there was this wave, this Jewish-led wave of anti-imperialism that Harris could have put herself in front of.
Right.
And then she would have at least done better, if not won. Hi, Josie.
She bit the apple though.
Hey,
and she liked it.
How's it going?
And she kept eating it.
Right.
And she paid the price for it. Good for her behind.
I'm going to go. I know Josie has important things to talk about. I'm going to go.
Josie needs to jump in on this.
But we do have 3 minutes left.
You guys are talking about, what
neoliberalism and all of its caca.
Powell Memo. Jonathan wants to talk about the Powell Memo, but this comes out of that. This comes out of what happens at the Balfour Declaration. This is a consolidation of power by global capitalism. This is all this is. And to manipulate identity politics is part of the strategy of global capitalists. Doesn't matter who it is.
And as we segue to Josie's segment,
but before we segue to it, I just want to talk about because we didn't fully finish the Coates thing, and I know Todd came here just to talk about Coates.
No, so, I'm done. I want people to read the Coates.
Ta-Nehisi's article set off what Todd wanted to talk about.
I'm done, and to answer the hip hop question, I'm always surprised at how Luther Vandross's "Never Too Much" is really a hip hop song.
Okay,
listen to that song. He's rapping.
He sure is.
He's rapping. He's not calling it rapping. He's rapping in tune, right?
This is a heartbreaking, beautiful song.
But he's rapping. Sister says, "Is your cap a throwback to Beanie and Cecil?" I hate to say it, but Beanie and Cecil was a bit before my time. I was thinking more of Poindexter and Felix the Cat, the old cartoon 60s and 70s. But I've wanted this beanie. I've wanted a beanie like this with a propeller my entire life, and so I'm completely in love with it and love to appear on YouTube with it. Okay, so guys,
before Todd goes, I think Todd should come back, and I think we really want to talk about
you can stay.
Black women as a tool that was used to manipulate a certain conversation around
that's the unfortunate.
No, but that's what the Coates article is about. The Coates article is about exactly that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And the Coates article is about the betrayal that the Black women leadership did of the Black community and of people like Fannie Lou Hamer. And that's what Coates says. That's why, like I said, this is a wild article to be in Vanity Fair and to get paid $10,000 to do. And I'm sure it's offended some people in the political class. So I just wanted to put it on the radar of you guys, because I know you guys like discussing this stuff. But no, I'm not taking away from Josie. Josie's got to talk about the Black
but this doesn't
funding and all that. I'm going to go.
This doesn't begin with Harris. Let's go back to.
It goes back to the early days of the CBC.
Exactly. Let's go back.
That's what split the 72 convention.
Yes, exactly.
The Palestinian question.
Yes, it keeps going back. Every 4 we see it, it shows up. Yeah. It will not die.
Right. Thank you guys. Don't leave. I'm gonna let Josie roll. Thank you guys.
I love Todd.
He started a good one. I wasn't gonna say nothing all night. I was trying to stay behind the scenes. I got to come out banging now.
I may be the only person on the platform right now who's not like an avid Coates reader, even as someone who is interested in the critique of it all.
Well, listen,
I've never, I will tell you that I'm sorry. I haven't. Yeah.
I'm surprised. I want to know what made Vanity Fair take it. Right? I mean, the same Vanity Fair almost put Mumia in the ground.
Well,
right? I mean, Vanity Fair ain't no friend of the Democratic Party.
I think what Todd might have said to that is that Coates did a good job of making people feel comfortable in the first part of his career with like My President is Black, with a lot of the essays that he wrote were very friendly to the Democratic establishment.
Yeah, it was
and they made people feel really comfortable.
And it's
And once he made and so he said once he made his money,
then he dropped that thing on reparations.
And well, no, even the reparations thing, right? Like it was great, right? But it wasn't until he became a millionaire that he actually wrote The Message. And The Message is one of the ones where he went to Gaza, and that's the one that really started getting him more ostracized, right? By ostracized, I mean targeted. But by that time,
AIPAC isn't just in the Democratic Party. The whole question of the Zionist establishment in American media also needs to be dealt with.
But it was interesting that Coates didn't come to any sort of realization of what was happening in the occupied territories of Palestine until he visited. Now that is, I think, a shocking sort of revelation. And
I don't know if that's
he says this not once, not twice, but he says this when he writes that the last book where he talks about his travels to Gaza, right? And so he says that he didn't. And so it's how do you not, for someone that we consider learned, how is it that you couldn't sort of recognize just a slaughter of not just of Palestine, but our humanity globally, our humanity? That it was, I think it was, for me, it was shocking to hear him reveal that. And he continues to sort of talk about, and I come to this realization because of my visit. And there are people
because I think that
go on.
Because I think there's a difference between
and Jonathan, I know everybody's getting emergency alerts now because
around where I'm at.
80 miles an hour winds, take shelter in a sturdy building.
I gotta
away
close
from
windows and doors in a minute.
Yeah.
Wow.
So just everybody be careful. Yep, that's it.
No, that's
ain't nothing but the whirlwind, baby. Ain't nothing but the whirlwind. Chickens coming on.
80 miles an hour winds.
Right.
Wow.
All these gluttonous oil barons and all these monsters made this heat and these storms smoke they behind.
Wow. Yeah, I just had to text someone. Yeah, all of our stuff just went in about 80 mile an hour winds and thunderstorms. So everyone be careful out there. If you are in New York, New Jersey, tri-state area, apparently weather is going to get real funky real fast.
Fast,
was not in the forecast like this. So be careful, be safe.
Yeah, it wasn't. Climate is sort of the should be our number one, number two, and number three sort of issue that should be.
I know, and I know we haven't talked about that. We probably need to talk about climate, at some point. But Jonathan, you were about to say?
Yeah, I think that this also segues into what we're talking about in terms of institutions. Part of the reason why Coates said that he didn't fully get it until he actually went there is because there's been representation in media, et cetera, like that there are good guys and bad guys. If you're getting mostly mainstream media, and yes, that there's issues in there are issues, right? Like there's stuff with Israel and Palestine in that situation, but you have to actually do a deep dive. You have to know about the situation and do a deep dive into it. If you're just taking in, because people read about a lot of things. They're not just experts in everything. They read a lot of different things, a lot of different stuff. And it really wasn't until really the last few years that I even recognized what was going on to the extent that it was going on. And because the Netanyahu
once
regime
you did,
is right, but it's also because the Netanyahu regime is more bluntly unapologetic and nakedly ruthless compared to any other
settler colonialism on
right,
steroids.
right, and the best way to look at it, I thought, was looking at Meir Kahane and understanding where he was in the 90s before he died, and understand where he is now as ideology, right? Like in the 90s, he was a radical. Like most people in polite society would not talk about Meir Kahane or would talk about him badly. He was not the standard bearer for Israeli politics. Now he's pretty much like the standard bearer for Israeli politics in his ideology, right? Like he's long since passed away, but his ideology really lived and grew and represents so much of the ideology behind what is, or at least in terms of my understanding of it, right? Which justifies a lot of the ruthlessness that you see, even before October 7th, even before that, where you saw the big march in I think it was 2022, where Palestinians marched toward the fences and they were greeted with snipers who would aim for their knees. And and you're looking at that and you're like, wow. And I think that the more that you get the radical nature of these current policies, the more that it right? And once you know, you know. So I do understand the nature of the message, in that if you're looking at mainstream media and its portrayal of mainstream media and Israel's portrayal in mainstream media, it tends to be like, there's a both sidesism that's there. There's this terrorism question, and do they have a ally in peace and that kind of stuff. And when you start to look more deeply into the human rights question, as was apparent especially in later years in the Netanyahu administration, and definitely in the war in Gaza, that just made it so that you can no longer ignore it. 70,000 people killed in a few months is crazy. Having people lose 200 family members is crazy. If you don't think that it fits the specific legalistic definition of genocide based on this definition, whatever, it's clearly mass murder. Like mass murder of innocence has been committed. And whatever you want to call the mass murder of innocence, you can call the mass murder of innocence. But we know that's been happening, right? This really, I was going to segue to you, Josie, in terms of it really highlights the importance of having independent media and independent press, people, and having a voice.
And I don't want to. I want you to sort of continue on that sort of opening of this segment. We had an editor from NPR, from NJPBS, a news anchor who joined us as editor, and in our newsroom, we have open conversation the first 15 minutes of our newsroom, and one of the writers, who's South Asian, said, what I really like about being at Public Square is that we get to use the word genocide. And then there's a young 17-year-old writer who said, I really appreciate being in space because I get to think critically about the war in Iran. We're all talking about it at school, but I get to think about it in historical context. And he and I were having a conversation after, and he said, I don't think as a publisher you can say that the president is pursuing a policy of manifest destiny, of expansion, of recolonizing across the globe. And I said, but I think that's what he said about the Western Hemisphere, and I think that's what he said about the world. So it has been reported. by NJPBS itself, I said to him, Channel 13. And then he said, I newsrooms, I just don't understand how you can use the word genocide. Newsrooms have had to think long and hard about whether or not we were going to use that word. And I said, so did we. We thought long and hard about it before we placed it in our style guide. But we're community media, and the community uses the word genocide. And so we report and reflect the community. That's what community media does.
Right on, Josie, right on.
And so this is someone who is from NPR. This is someone who's a news anchor on PBS before the weekend show was closed off, and then he was terminated, and he was volunteering as an editor. And he sort of liked us and our mission. And then after that, his response was, I have a problem. I may have a problem with your mission. And I said, well, then this is not the right place for you, because we're community media. And those are the challenges that local newsrooms face. So now this particular organization that provides free editing services from accomplished editors from the Wall Street Journal. This is a group, they've come together, these retired editors and writers, and they will not work with us at all because they see us as advocacy media. And I wrote a long memo stating that advocacy media was pioneered by corporate media. That's the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Wall Street Journal. They write in the interests of their constituents, of their readers, and so do we. We write in the interests of our constituents and our readers. Now, their constituents have tons of money. Our constituents do not. So we are, they're community people. So that's a challenge that we face, that is something real for us, that this organization works with other local media organizations and other writers, but will not work with us. In fact, they walked away from three writers. Two were South Asians. One was doing a story on Julia Wright and her book of poems. The other one was doing a piece on climate change and the impact of federal cuts on local activists. And the other one, sort of a high schooler, was doing a piece working with sort of interviewing a high schooler about the war in Iran, an Iranian student, and just walked away, just dropped them without any grace or respect or regard for them. That's what it looks like to build a black press without money. Yeah.
And it's interesting because it seems like I think that when they say that you're advocacy media, and then you should say is the reason why you think that you're objective only because you're not reflective? Because they're not clearly objective, right? They're just not self-aware of that lack of objectivity. Mm-hmm. And why don't, if they're not going to use the term genocide, then what do they call it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what standard, and by what standard, and would there be a standard ever if they would call it, what was the number that you'd have to have for it to be genocide? At what number do you have? Right now, it's like there are certain percentages of the Palestinian population that are gone. Like percentages of the population that are gone. Like percentages of buildings, infrastructure, gone. At what point is it genocide? If you have to have intent, or is the genocide scholar who says it's genocide, where is he wrong? Where is his argument flawed?
Oh, the numerous problems. Yes, yeah.
Right.
Yep,
So I think that they should not be allowed to simply say you're advocacy media without having to defend the criteria of their objectivity. By what criteria are you objective? And if you are so-called objective, then how do you deal with these questions?
Yeah, no, that's where community power comes in, right? That's where community fighting for their own media, their own press, their own free and independent press. That's where that comes in. We get to choose our language and how we frame our stories, how we frame our questions even. I mean, answers come from questions, and we're very particular in the questions that we pose, the words that we use within our questions, and the kinds of answers that we will consider as quotes in our stories, answers that sort of support the right to community to define itself with power, and the right of the community to carve pathways to wrestling with and leveraging their power, to government, to corporate institutions. It's why we often cover activists and what activists are doing on particular issues. And so whenever we get a fellowship, we often look at the impact of public policy on activists, so we can get somebody to do some real digging, some real investigation on how community activists are responding to a variety of ways. I mean, right now we're looking for a writer to look at Medicaid cuts and what that will do across the board for vulnerable populations across New Jersey, and the cutting of hospitals, etc. So, I mean, that's a huge piece that affects our community, that affects communities across New Jersey. So. They should be, but you need to sort of leverage that, because what happens is you get marginalized and you get sort of pushed out, and the competition for dollars becomes less and less within your grasp. That happens. When we were here last week and we talked about the black media outlets, black press outlets have reduced considerably. And our commitment is staying power and to build and to expand. So, yeah.
So you talked about a series of a series of budget cuts to local press. Tell us about those. What are those budget cuts? Why are they important?
So last weekend, or just a few days ago, was like a big deal. Mikey Sherrill submitted her budget, and the legislature voted on it. The consortium, which is the pass-through organization to fund local press outlets, a lot of them hyperlocal, but also a lot of them, and with greater largesse, to news adjacent organizations, and we can go back to what those are. But when the legislature was passed maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, it was at a $5 million set aside to fund, develop local news organizations. This week, it went from 2.5 to 1 million. That's what the legislator carved out to fund local news organizations. So that's $1 million down from the 2.5.
It's more than that.
And Josie, what legislator? What the federal? What?
The state.
No, New Jersey, Trenton, right? So
our local, our state legislation. Okay.
State.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people did a lot of lobbying, a lot of sort of begging, which is what lobbying is. News was not sort of, and it isn't. At the same time that we're seeing sort of that slash, we're also seeing that the legislator sort of gave the contract for reviving NJPBS to Montclair State, and that came with, I'm not sure if it was 7.5 or $10 million to cover statewide New Jersey. And so what we're seeing is that journalism and news is supposed to be sort of part of the way in which we wrestle with our democracy, and that the institutions themselves and the sector itself should be broad and wide and varied. We're seeing a consolidation of power, and so the controls of media, controls of press, the controls of journalism are narrowing. And Montclair State has a contract to do that. They're the administrator of the consortium. So, we expect, me and my fellow Black publishers, we expect that our budgets would be slashed considerably. Where will that leave us? We're not sure. I made it clear to the board chair of the consortium and to others that they were funding more and more news adjacent organizations, which were organizations that were funding their own internal podcasts, their own internal sort of newsletters. We're seeing journalism itself, reporting, investigative reporting, just go by the wayside. That's about the corruption of democracy. That is about the great, and I wrote this in my last op-ed where I talked about government being run without citizens. And so if we're running local governments and state governments and federal governments without citizens because we have low voter turnout, because coupled with that or compounded, what compounds that is misinformation and disinformation and limited access to journalism at the local level, because we're getting our news from the national level, which is why we have huge turnouts for presidential elections, and of course major turnouts for statewide gubernatorial elections. But when we go to the school board level, and Newark is not unique in that, we go to the school board level, we go to local government, we see less and less people engaged, and that's because no one's really covering news at the local level.
Yeah,
and also the issues that how, what are the issues before the city council and how are they voting? When you have government that's set up to manage the size of the budget in Newark, for example, when only 11% of people showed up to vote. I mean, that's kind of crazy that you have that kind of power. And so in my op-ed, I talked about that the donor elite corporate class, those are the ones running elections, right? If you allow a government with 11% vote turnout to be run, it's because donors are running it. They don't want an informed public. They do not want a public of the 60s and or the 70s even to sort of question government, to pass policy, demand public policies that will open up information and open up accountability on what government is choosing to do and what ways in which corporations are getting away with whatever they're getting away with. So that requires journalism on the ground, and that requires reporters on the ground.
Josie, speaking about journalism on the ground, did you have the opportunity to listen and cover what was going on in Jersey City while they went from no tax increase to possibly a 20% tax increase? And then you have former Mayor Fulop kind of saying it's all, if he was still there would be no tax increase. Did you have a chance to look at that?
So as a reader of the news, so I have a few things to say about that. So yes, as a reader of the news, yes, we try to focus on Newark. And if we had the kind of funding, there's a news organization that covers Jersey City. It's a white outlet. They launched their newsroom.
Baby, which one you talking about?
I can't remember it right now. But they launched a newsroom
in Jersey City.
Not Slice of Culture. Slice of Culture.
Slice of Culture is multiracial.
They're a news adjacent organization. That's a sort of their community.
You talk about Hudson Chronicle?
Very different.
No. Okay.
So this particular institution, it's a newsroom, not Slice of Culture, which is not a newsroom. Right. They launched their newsroom with a 10-year grant of $400,000 a year. We launched our newsroom with, I'm not even sure it was $1. We all gave it, and we all sort of supported it for 2.5 years out of our pockets.
I know what you're talking about.
But I did see that, and I think it was covered quite well. I think for the Jersey City outlets and NJ.com, but we didn't cover it. We don't have a Roman reporter. If there was a Jersey City reporter who wanted to report on it for us, then yes, as we did for Vote 16, we had a Jersey City reporter who reported on it for us from there. But unless we have someone who is from that city, we try to focus on Newark. We have like one consistent reporter. We have a couple of other reporters, including Matt Dragon, who writes for us. He writes opinion pieces on a variety of issues.
Good stuff too.
And Matt is an unpaid reporter. In fact, he's a donor to Public Square, and he writes for us. Matt is amazing. Just he's forever committed to us, and so we appreciate that. We have a lot of folks who show up in that way for us, and we're forever grateful to them.
And yeah, like speaking of when you say news adjacent, it makes me think of Chasing New Jersey, who started, I guess, with a phone and a thought. I don't know, and then it developed into something you would see on TV, and I guess until he decided to run for governor, and it just totally went away. But that was interesting how they had a whole format that they kind of did with their iPhone, and it was just news all over New Jersey. But you don't see him anymore, especially after he ran for governor.
Sure. I mean, we just need more. There was a national report that came out and that ranked New Jersey 49th in the U.S. for journalists per 100,000. There were like 5 journalists.
49th.
49th.
That is a reflection of New Jersey as the soprano state, baby.
It is a boss state of journalism
that does not want any visible accountability. Absolutely. Democrat, Republican, I don't care how you slice all of them clowns. Absolutely. The ones who gutted Oprah, that's Jersey, baby. Yep. And they are comfortable with that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think journalism or the funding of local news was sort of like a pet project. Now, NJPBS and sort of getting that station restarted has become a focus. And so if you put your monies there, like, why do I need to fund local news? We've got this, we're going to restart this NJPBS station. Why do we need local news? I mean, we'll get our news from there. Who's covering police brutality? Who's covering on a consistent basis and following the story, right? So following the story. Who's covering what activists are doing around climate change? I mean, who's covering sort of how neighborhoods are very, very different? I mean, I wrote a grant recently, and I said, we'd like to have a section for every ward in Newark. Newark is the economic engine of this state. We don't have any coverage in Newark. It's hard. Steve Skrunsky from NJ.com covers it, but NJ.com is a pretty big outlet. He gets to cover it full time, but he doesn't cover it fully. Tap into as well. So we get these.
And like you said, lobbying, you were begging, and what they gave you. But even I don't even think PBS just wants. I don't think they want to be the only person there. Giving and getting the news, I always think of the picture when somebody goes to talk and you see all of these mics going to the person going to talk, and there was various different, journalists, and I would think as a journalist you want the fire department.
That's okay. I mean,
but I would think you would want different people there, and I'm sure. Do you guys talk to one another? Compare notes and so on.
So,
and how do? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think Zaid brings up a good point, right? It's about whether or not you're being invited into conversations, and conversations happen, decisions are made. And then you see them sort of expressed. I mean, I think about Larry Ham calling a press conference, and if there aren't outside, sort of international journalists or other journalists, it's probably me and Andy Richards. That is, that's it. If I can make it, if Andy can make it, it's the two of us. If there are no sort of national journalists, because
and Andy got to fight to get her few words in,
right? Because it's a sexy story for them to cover. I mean, we had folks out at Delaney Hall forever until it sort of blew up. And then, I mean, Ali Velshi was on the scene at 10 o'clock at night, standing next to Ryan. So, it's hard to compete with that kind of money. It's hard to compete with those sort of vertical relationships, right? So news is very structured vertically, the way corporations have been structured, the way sort of imperial imperial structures are set up, it's vertical, and you have to sort of at the bottom, you have to build sort of these horizontal relationships. That's the people power you have to build, and so that's what we have to do. That's what we've been struggling to do. We are very focused on training community members to report on their particular neighborhoods, on their particular issues. You'd be surprised at how many people aren't aware of what's happening in their community, or who represents them in Trenton or in their municipal government.
I know we're getting ready to come to the end of this segment, but one of the questions I have to close off this segment is, I know this is a continuing conversation, but what's next?
What's next? So we've got this 40% slash. I may not get refunded. Penda may get some semblance. We continue to report, and we continue to write grants, or to find ways in which we can support the journalism that we want to do. And this, and Jonathan, thank you so much for seeing. I mean, because you are part of the sort of Black information news happening press extension of, we're all part of it. So how do we sort of make our connections and build a coalition around news and information about our community? How do we bring Black corporate dollars to support press? I mean, WBGO, it belongs to Newark. How are we partnering with public radio? How are we building those relationships and bringing those dollars in and covering news in different ways? I think we can do that. So I want to continue to speak out and to be on platforms to reach out to as many New Jerseyans as we can, or Jerseyites. You say I'm such a New Yorker, right? To get them engaged in why local news matters. I mean, people are talking about local news, panicking about newspapers disappearing. And, once again, to Zaid's point, people have been glazed over. And so we think that maybe this NJPBS station will be the end all, but it'll be the end all of our communities not being reported on, and our issues not being reported on. So thank you.
No, thank you. And I think we're going to have you back on more just to talk about this with other Black publishers, because I think that more people know the news that we should be reading, the news that we should be getting from Public Square Amplified and other journalistic publications. I think that the better off we all are.
Thank you, guys. Stay dry and cool.
Right. And Josie, if you want to stay for the next segment, you're more than welcome as well. So welcome. Marquis, how are you?
How you doing, everybody?
I'm good, man. So I know that you are, first of all, thank you for coming on All Politics Local again. You are regularly bringing us guests. I know that you recently had another political run, but after that political run, you are back in the community doing stuff. And so much appreciated. You are a coach. You are a community activist, a coach. You coach football for kids, right? And there's been a lot of success in your league over the years. Can you tell us something about what do you coach and how long have you been doing it? Just something in terms of your background, because I don't think a lot of people know.
Yes, thank you, Jonathan, again. Uncle Zaid and Mom, Auntie Donna, thank y'all for having me again. So I've been coaching for the last 6 years. I got involved with my son playing football. Started to play football, so I've been coaching as assistant coach and a parent who was involved. And I always wanted to coach. I never thought my son would drag me into it. But after coaching for my first 2 seasons as an assistant coach, I just found the passion and love to do it because I was able to touch kids every day and be a father to some of them. And some of them had similar stories as me, who was growing up in a single mother's home. Someone was looking for their father. Some of them lost their father. So I stepped in as a role model to a lot of them. And I saw myself being more than a coach on the football field. I found myself also being a mentor off the field, going to school visits, meeting with their teachers. Some of my players, teachers know me better than they know their parents. They call me first. And my kids respect me enough to understand that in order to play on my football field, you have to do what you have to do in the classroom first.
And I know that we are talking about, we're going to be talking about American football, but to all the Newark Cape Verdean community who is really excited right now, Cape Verde and Argentina are tied 2-2 right now. Tied with Argentina. They have the best player in the world. And they tied 2-2? Oh my gosh. This is an upset that can shake up the world. Wow. So I just had to throw that in there because I know we're in Newark. Newark's got a huge Portuguese community, Brazilian community, Cape Verdean community, and the Cape Verdeans right now are probably losing their mind.
Yeah, you know, I think it's the year of the underdogs. The year of the underdogs, man. Nobody expected that to happen. I think Tahir know a lot about that, being a football player. About being an underdog and them counting you out and showing up
so
on game
that
day.
wasn't a storm out there. That was a Cape Verdean community. Okay.
Right. And we want to give a big thanks and a big welcome to Tahir Whitehead, NFL football star, for coming on All Politics on Local again, and coming on to talk about the workshop that he is doing, the camp that he is doing at Tahir Whitehead Stadium in Newark. Hey man, welcome to All Politics on Local.
Hey, thank you all. Thanks always for the support. And thanks for having me on.
As always. So,
and Tahir, we have Josie with us, and Josie, you should know Tahir is very, very passionate about financial literacy and teaching all of us about the importance of financial literacy.
Indeed.
Absolutely. Most of our conversations be about my credit and stuff. I'll be like, can we find something else to talk about?
Nope. I'm like, look, it's a reason they don't teach it, in the education systems till you get to a certain aspect, and it's key, man. Economics, understanding that stuff is all part of, growing our communities and stuff. So if we all in better positions, then now we can all come back and do a little bit more in our community instead of it being on select groups of people. So I'm gonna always hold my brother accountable to make sure we in good standing, to lead to hand down these legacies, Todd, the next generation, and them twins, the new set of twins, my brother. So congrats.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We didn't know about that. Congratulations.
We didn't know about that. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So my brother,
while he about it more. Maybe if I would have talked about it more during the campaign, I would have won.
Hey, look, and that's what I was saying. Even during the campaign, jumping in late, just still having the belief in himself and his team and everything. So that's why I'm like, that takes a different type of courage, and just, he still ran a great run, and but all the while of having, his wife, in and out of the hospital, and with his twins, and just still fighting that good fight in the community. So it's guys like my brother Marquis that keep me going and keep me inspired when I'm looking to come back and do more in the community, even though I'm not here locally. So, he's my, my boots on the ground, whatever he called me, I'll show up when I can, and vice versa. So, I just wanted to, give a quick congrats to my brother with the new additions to the, the Lewis family.
Congratulations. How would you, a lot of our audience doesn't know, how did the two of you meet?
Oh wow. Tahir was playing at Westside High School. And I went to arts high school, and so crazy is our principals was husband and wife. So the Browns.
Oh, wow.
so you know, when Tahir was on the football team, I always admired his drive for the game of football, his leadership. Even being one of the youngest on the team, he still was a leader to even the older classmen. So you know, when he got drafted, you know, I'm like, listen, man, when you go there, you should put on a show for Newark and make sure you always reach back home. And he made that promise, like, I'm never gonna forget home. And
Yep.
you know, he never forgot home. Every year he came back, he gave back. He, you know, when he didn't even wasn't even getting what everybody else getting. He made sure that Newark felt the love. So you know, that was a brotherhood that was so strong that, you know, only thing that separate us from being brothers is the blood that run in our blood in our bodies, man.
Mm-hmm.
And he happened to be godfather to my twins, so we good.
Yep.
Ah. So tell us about, that's a great story, and I didn't know that. I did not know how
Me
the two
either.
of you met. So thank you. Uh, so what? Tell us about Tahir Whitehead Stadium.
So first and foremost, it's an honor. Yeah, you know, the just being able to you know have something like that. You know, granted, you know I was honored with having the Trek named after me and everything by the housing authority, and then just you know that was an amazing you know just great. Just I was extremely grateful for that. But when you know they came around and said, look, you know we're going to honor you with the Tahir Whitehead Sports Complex at Nat Turner Park, that spoke to me. Just the historic, you know. Just the history surrounding Nat Turner in and of itself, and just you know what he meant to you know just how like moving our culture, our community, our people forward with inspiring and everything, which was for a different reason, but for me it was impactful, it was powerful because it's like I told myself it's like I'm here. My goal has always been inspire with the issues and everything that we're having in today's society, right? The issues we're having now. You know, one of the things being what we spoke on earlier, right? Economics and financial literacy. So it represents, you know, it's just that, hey, look, I'm from the same city as you. You can, if I did it, you can do it. And it's think good things happen when you come back and you don't forget where you know what happened, where you come from, and the people that supported you along the way, right? So although it's my name on that at this complex, it's bigger than me. You know, I always said that I played for my last name, not my first. And that was something that, you know, I stood with, I ran with, and I felt like I had the city on my back. You know, that like Marquis stated, I always wanted to make the city proud. He reminded me of that, of all of the fighting that he was doing in the city for the residents. And then I said, look, the most I can do is do my job on the major stage, which is the NFL. But then in my spare time, you know, when I could be resting and doing anything in the world, I'm spending it back in my hometown that raised me and made me the person that I am.
And I think Tahir being a little humble, but I think Tahir is one of the only people that's from here that actually invest in this city every single day. It's not a time that we call on him that he's not there for our people. And you know, this idea was basically like, listen, man, I'm tired of naming things after people that's dead.
Mm,
Let's name something after somebody that's alive that kids can see as their motivation, that they can see that one day something to be named after them, and we could change the trajectory that in order for you to be honored in this way, you have to be dead and 6 feet under. So, you know, this was inspiring to young people when they was able to see this happen. You know, the Tahir stayed, he took pictures with them as he always do, autographs. And, you know, one kid actually cried, right? Because he said, you know, I remember seeing him play football on TV,
right.
but to know that he's from my town and really giving back to me, and that he's pouring into my future, makes me proud to be from Newark.
Mm. I remember seeing him play as well. Like, when the announcer announced from Newark, I was like,
Newark, New Jersey.
all right, right? Like, it just a smile just gets over on your face because you're like, okay, all right, right? You
I
know,
had
you
I
just be
had to
like, Get
I
him
had to
right.
fight for it, baby.
Let him go.
I had to remind them every time, when I got to the point I was, a starter on the team and, like a captain and stuff like that. And we'll have the meetings before the game, and I just have to remind them, they'll say Jersey City because that's what people think. When you look up where I was born, it says Jersey City. I'm like, look, I'm from Newark. I'm like, my mom went into labor while she was in Jersey City visiting friends, and she had to go to that hospital. But don't get it jacked up. I'm from Newark through and through, and there's
I'm glad.
nothing wrong with Jersey City, right? I got family out there, but I'm like, look, for me personally, where my heart is and where I stand on, that's Brick City, baby.
So tell us about this. Tell us about the workshop that you're doing.
So this year, the mindset, with the team is all, with the Whitehead Foundation is always how can we improve, and make things bigger, better than we did than the previous year, right? So it's always about growth. And one of, understanding where, what the city of Newark is and, how gritty it is and, what how people perceive us. It's about pouring into the kids to not drink the Kool-Aid, because it's like if you don't define yourself, then somebody else will. And it's given a sense of self, given a sense of purpose, and or helping them find the sense of self and or find that purpose through various channels, whether it's socially, whether it's spiritually, whether it's economically, just family, because as we know in our communities, we have a lot of dysfunction that lies in it, and we get, as a people, we get a lot of bad rap, but we are loving people. We are genuine people. And this, get them to understand, hey, don't let nobody put a label on you. Don't let nobody tell your story for you. You do that for yourself. You be the author of your book. So it's really instilling those skills, those life skills that's going to allow them to be successful in life no matter where they go. And understanding that the very determination and will and adaptability that we've all gained growing up in the city is the very thing that's key in being able to thrive and survive in a society. So it's just giving them that hope, as Marquis alluded to. Like, that young man was proud. He gave me a hug because he understands. Like, he understands that he doesn't see that often. And that's the way I lead, right? My thing is lead from the front, be the example that you want to see, and constantly asking myself, are you someone that you would follow? And for me, is really defining that every day. Every day I wake up is how can I be a better version of myself? So it's instilling these things that I hold valuable to me, that I instill in my 5 sons and my siblings, right? And my nieces, my nephews. And I view everyone as an extension of my family. So, I get it for me to sum it all up. I'm fed up or tired. I'm tired of the negativity that's surrounding us, and there's so much positivity that's going on in our communities. And then also, it's like, hey, look, let's band together. People say we can't do things together, we can't be successful, we shouldn't work together. We're not supporting each other the way we should, like other communities. And I'm like, okay, we know a lot of this stuff is going on, but let's change it.
That's excellent, man. So, but question also, they're going to learn how to play football here too, right? Like you mentioned a lot of things about building and learning, and all that's great. But is this also like a football workshop?
So the conference itself is to teach about, learn about your rights. We have the
Okay.
Essex County Prosecutor's Office involved. So, more times than not, we get over policed in our communities, right? And we don't truly know our rights. We don't know the Constitution, things like that. It's not really taught at the level in which it should, in school, or retaught where as you become an adult and be held liable to certain for your actions, how to move. So now, you learn about your rights, you learn about financial literacy, learn about being like healthy relationships, mental health. That's just the youth symposium component. But then now you get to the actual, the annual football camp, right? That's the instructional piece where, from just as much as you have to be mentally grounded and smart and intelligent to be able to maneuver these different spaces or be in the classroom, you have to have the ability to push through hard things, physically as well, right? So it's like getting everyone to understand that just because you play a sport right now, that doesn't define who you are. And don't look at fitness as I'm only being fit just because I play a sport. You have to make it a lifestyle. So it's encouraging healthy living, healthy eating, activity and things like that, because we as a people, as like most people, right? As we transition out of our sports at whatever point that is, some or most a lot sooner than others, we and it's an epidemic in this country as well, like obesity. The food that we're consuming, that's where it's a lot of the cancers and things like that, that's riddling our bodies, and the diseases that we're battling comes from, lack of exercise. We're dealing with mental health issues because the state that we're living in, right, under constant duress, living in almost like war zones. So people don't understand what that does to the human psyche. But then now, also understanding that it's a food desert in the city, right? For having fresh foods. So now it's this food that we're consuming is not too far from being turning bad, and it's giving us these illnesses. So it's important to be physically fit. So exercising and making it a part of your lifestyle. So it really encompasses, the inner aspect of of us as a people, and then also, the external, right? Even the dental hygiene is what we talk about. So it's an experience that we want to continue to build on, but it's really for both the parents and the student athletes to take away something impactful that help them change their lives.
One of the things I wanted to also add into this, with the thing that you're doing, is that you were a brilliant player. And I think people often underestimate just how strategically, how intellectually you need to be a great player, right? You were a brilliant player. And I think that sometimes even the more violent the sport, the smarter you have to be, right? To play it and play it well, and to play it at an elite level. I think you bring that. I think you're probably going to naturally bring that. You definitely bring that to the programs that you're doing. Like you are instilling it on different levels, right? Like both on know your rights, all the other stuff. But I think that even when you're teaching them how to play the game, I think the game is an intellectual game as well as a physical game. They both work hand in hand. And I think your career is an embodiment of that, because you were a smart player. You were obviously a fit player, all the other stuff, but you were a smart player when you played as well. And I think that with where Newark is going now with the sports programs that are in the city, a lot of the schools are really pushing the idea of the scholar athlete. And you might have heard what's going on in Shabazz, where like 2 years in a row they've had their football players go to Stanford, and like they're getting Newark is getting major colleges to come, and because these are intellectual scholar athletes who are here, right? Like they're at Shabazz, they're at Weekway. Like I know that is like going on in the life of the city as of right now. Are you at some point going, or are you already involved to some extent in that thriving culture that's been building for the last like maybe 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, working hand in hand with re-elected our great brother, Mayor Raz Baraka in the city of Newark, the recreation department, my brother Marquis, and Director Redding, and the whole team. So we come every time we get together. It's always about how can we make more of an impact. what do we need? What resources? What are we missing? Right? Because it's bigger. At some point, the ball will stop bouncing if you're a basketball player, and the cleats, you got to throw the cleats up on the hand, somewhere if you're a football player, anything else. So it's at some point you have to transition, so you got to be smart, as you said, to memorize 300 plus pages of X's and O's and all of these different terminologies and the coverages, and then not only know what you need to do, and then you got to know what the offense is doing on that side and how they're going to try to draw up something to, score a touchdown or get a first down or whatever they need on that. So it's a lot more than what you see on the surface. It's just guys running around hitting each other. You do have to be smart. Right, you have to be able to, if it's 11 positions, be able to know where all 11 guys are aligned on each and every play, and then how to get to the right call if the offense comes out and check. So you got to be quick on your toes. You got to be good under pressure. So football taught me a lot about myself, personally, but then also people, and then how to deal with hard times is not hot. And to not shy away from hard times. Pardon me. Give me 1 second.
Hello?
Yeah, you gotta talk.
Is everything good?
Yeah, he said give him 1 second, Jonathan. He has background noise.
This fire truck was going by. This weather out here is crazy with this heat, man. Hoping everybody, been taking care of themselves. But
yeah, we had the same thing.
But yeah,
Heat
so to your
followed by
point,
thunderstorms.
yes. So like you gotta be smart, and we're pushing. So it's a huge testament to the young man that from Shabazz that went to Stanford, and we're just trying to get more and more coaches get more and more coaches in huge universities like that to see that there are great products, great young men and women coming out of the city of Newark. So we just that takes us working together and us not being divided in the division that people like to see amongst us. So it's supporting one another, being able to agree to disagree, no matter if it's West Side, Central, Shabazz, East Side, Barringer, all of these different schools we're all in Newark. So when we want it benefits all of us when we see each other having success. So my goal is to bring us together and make us more close knit, because the more we support one another when we're having success, then the more of our young men and women will get these opportunities to go out there and shine and put Newark on the map even further.
And Tahir, I'm gonna go back to the financial literacy. In your week, the first thing I wanted to ask you about was a lot of places have created a Monopoly game where they can teach, but Newark already has a Newarkopoly. But I think of young people and being financial stable, because it seems like you go from 18 to 35 overnight. And when they're prepared to make those, their first piece of property is what I'm interested in. And have you had an opportunity to, in your summer programs, make space for financial literacy? And I know it's only like a week or a short time, but just preparing them for those getting older and to, like you are a great advocate of being financially smart. And then my second question is, I'm sure you've heard about the NAACP and what they were asking of student athletes in terms of making choices. Do you have any thing you would like to say about that?
In regards to the financial literacy component, we're looking to extend the program beyond just the day or 2 days that it's been in the past. Been working with my financial team, as well as the city, right, with their education department, just to get more of these resources into the kids' hands. So it's being able to, like last year we did a conference and it was K through 8. So people were probably like, well, what can you teach to a kindergartner about being financially literate? Well, you just dumb it down and you give it to them, at their level. All of these kids are talking about Robux and V-Bucks and all of these different types of, electronic coin, and then we're talking about cryptocurrency. We're living in the digital age. So I feel like the sooner, we look at history, I went to Africa, went to the Serengeti, and we went to see the Maasai tribe, my wife and I. And they say at 7 years old, they send the young boys out there, they tend to the cattle, they let you know, hey, this is what plants you eat. If you get sick,
Right
this is what
fast.
plants you avoid. So I'm like, if we could put that type of responsibility on,
Right
if they could put
fast.
that type of responsibility on young people, and we used to do that in the ancient times, then why can't we dumb things down for our children, to be able to have them get a head start being financially literate? Because, and like the way the system is designed is to make us consumers, so it's, you're gonna, you need to have finances in order to live. Inflation, things are going up, so you got to be smart with your money. So all we do is just, break it down to their level, and then we're looking to extend the program. But then now you fast forward and you see when kids don't get financial information at a young age, then it leads to the collegiate athletes making poor decisions with their financing once they get there. And you're talking about NIL and stuff like that. You mismanage finances, right? You see the difference. You see it in the pros. You see pros in the pros or in the NFL, they say 78 to 82% of athletes, go broke or bankrupt to, like 2 to 4 years once we're done playing. And those statistics are alarming because when you think about who makes up most of the NFL is mainly, us as African Americans, so it's just attacking it from all angles, and then just getting the youth athletes, just to understand that they should start investing in their future sooner, not later, right? Don't think, hey, I got time. I'm a kid. I'll be able to, worry about that grown up stuff when I get older, or even the adults thinking, oh, my kid is too young to teach them this stuff. We have to reframe our minds and our thinking to be able to start giving our youth, right? That is the future, the resources and the tools to thrive and be successful, because there's a lot of things going on in our society, in our community, in this country, and on this planet, suffering. They talk about global warming. You see a lot of gasoline vehicles being decommissioned. They're trying to put a plan in place to go to EV. Our grid is unstable. You look at all of these different things that we're battling, and it's because we're not informed. We're sidetracked and we're distracted by social media, just all this fake news, as someone likes to call it. But it's true. It's a lot of fake news out here, and we're too lazy to do our own research and look into things, and we just quick to believe what somebody tell us. So it's getting people to be creative thinkers and think for themselves instead of, the collective illusion that we've all bought into. And I believe what's his Jaylen Brown he speaks a lot to this, that is group thinking. We're being tricked into thinking the same thing, talking about everybody thinks the same person is cool, the same style is cool. It's like we're no longer original. We're being programmed on, on who to be, how to be, and they have profiles on all this stuff. So it's breaking out of the matrix.
I just want to laugh with you real quick. There's a book out now by Erica Savage called The Reframed Brain.
I know. So I want to.
Now, Josie, you have questions or?
No, after you, Jonathan.
No, I don't have a question. I was trying to bring you or Saeed or Donna.
Wait, I'm sorry. What was that?
So yes, go ahead, Don.
No, Josie, your question?
Yeah, go, Josie.
So, you don't mind if I call you by your first name, Tahir? I'm Josie.
Yes, that's fine. Tahir, it's fine.
You're bringing up some critical points, and I think we're connecting on those. I'm curious about your youth symposium, the conference, the 1 week piece, your work around financial literacy, and whether or not you have the opportunity to insert within that work on media literacy. So when you talk about misinformation, disinformation, and ways in which we get information and what we believe, and those belief systems sort of set in place a whole trajectory on political decisions, economic decisions, etc. And I think we were, before you came on, I'm the publisher of a local news organization. And one of the things that we're trying to do, of course, is to deepen and expand the Black press and shore up the Black press. So you have very, very few Black outlets. We cover Newark in particular. Every summer we run something called a Citizens Journalist Program, and we try to recruit as many young people from Newark as possible to train them around journalism, around media literacy, and have them report on news in their own communities. We've got some really terrific people from Newark this year, and I'd love for one of them to do a news story on the work that you guys are doing on this symposium. But I'm also interested in whether or not you're inserting media literacy into it. And when we, if we're going to have our young people making decisions, then we have to. There are a couple of things that they need to do. We need to talk about financial literacy within the context of global history and what money means, and the politics of money, and the governance of money, and who governs it, how it's used, and what sort of tool it is to consolidate power. We have 10 tech companies right now who pretty much run global capitalism with a few governments. There are also these 10 tech companies running what we read, what we consume, how it's constructed for our consumption, who we are. You talked earlier about there is this mythology in Newark, and we're trying to sort of break that mythology. Well, that's about news and information. And so people still see Newark in a particular way. And so how do we tell stories about Newark being an economic engine of this state? How do we tell stories of how we're transforming our neighborhoods at the local level, whether it's on public safety or it's in education? So those are the stories that we want to tell. And I think that you are a terrific partner to do that. And I'd love for our young people to meet you. We actually have what I think, Jonathan, is just somebody who has a novel in them. She graduated from Shabazz last year. She's written for us. And she's in the summer program once again. She is incredibly just brilliant. She's got an imagination that's mind-blowing. We also have a young man from Newark who just served 32 years in prison. And he's from Newark, and he's in our citizens journalist class, and he's going to be doing stories about Newark. And we've got another one who teaches North Star Academy, who is also a journalist. So I think any one of these can do a story on what you're doing, Tahir and Marquis. And Marquis, you remember me, you promised that you'd let me follow you, whether or not you want. So we're going to follow you.
I'm open. I'm always open. Yeah.
So I want you to consider inserting media literacy into your youth conference. I think it's invaluable to understanding the world in which we are raising the next generation, and also in the world in which this generation exists and how decisions are being made. And then the other piece is around money and understanding money in a global context and the history of it, and understanding capitalism and ways in which working class communities and working class people are tools of capitalism, and how do you leverage that power. So I'm hoping that you will consider that. I'd love to talk more about it, but it's so fantastic what you're doing, what you're both doing. So thank you.
And I want to say I'm open to it. You better do it now before my book come out. But
well, we'll have to do a Q&A with you on your book.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I just wanted to say, every year we look forward to this camp. It's an honor to, have this camp every year. I'm honored that my brother trusts me with making sure that this camp happen every year, because I understand the importance of motivating our young people, making sure that they understand. We're trying to change the mindset and the culture of our young people. When me and Tahir grew up, you know, we wanted to join sports. Now our families have to make their kids do sports. And that's because they believe that most adults live through children, that they only want to see them win games, right? And we want them to win in life. Even with some of our kids, not everyone is fit to really survive certain environments in Newark, right? So as a Pop Warner coach, what I try to do is expose my children, right, outside of Newark, right? So that if they go to West Side, they go to Weequay, they can say, I chose to go there. I had options to go elsewhere. I have options to go to St. Peter's Prep. I got options to go to Seton Hall Prep, right? But I chose to stay in Newark and go to Newark, right? So that makes them more invested in the city because they had the option to go everywhere else in the state of New Jersey because of not just their talent on the football field, but because their commitment in the classroom.
You know, it's interesting because one of the
100%.
things that North
And
Public Schools is working
media is being taught this year in the conference. Just
nice.
to let you know, Josie. So
you didn't reach out to the black press in Newark.
Hey, look, now we know that you're interested. My brother, Marquis is going to get us all connected because that's necessary, you know, to say the least. So I'm happy you hit on that. And all of the other points as well. Those were great.
I know we're getting ready to get to the end of the show, but I just want to thank
Jonathan. You're talking. You're on mute.
Oh no! Can anyone else hear me?
Tahir, can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay.
Can you hear?
Okay.
But no one can hear me.
I can hear you, Jonathan. Tahir, can you hear Jonathan?
I can.
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Jonathan. Okay, so he's talking, Tahir, so we can hear him on the radio. So he's just saying we're coming up to the end, and I can ask 5 more questions. Is what he's saying?
No, not that you can ask.
Hey, look, he laughing. I was about to say, I'm not sure if that's.
This is some media abuse thing that's going on right here.
No, but Tahir, since we got 3 minutes, I do want to ask you, what are you listening to these days?
There you go.
Okay.
These days, if it's not, I'm seldom listening to music anymore. You know, I listen to a lot of audiobooks, some on just mental health or self-help and just encouragement, spiritual guidance, or, you know, but if I'm not listening to an audiobook, then it's really just jazz. You know, it's I'm just constantly keeping myself in like a peaceful state where, you know, I can be in that creative flow, that creative mind to be able to think about things that I want to bring more to the conference and just how I want to guide my children, my family, and just be how I want to, what legacy I want to leave behind and who I want to be remembered by. So listen to things that keep me in that cool state until I'm lifting weights.
Okay. Zaid said, what jazz artists are you listening to?
No particular artist, but I listen to, it's like a coffee house, like a classic.
Okay. Oh. And what I had said to you earlier was that there's a book that you said the word reframe, and there's a sister called Erica Savage, and she wrote a book called The Reframed Brain. Since you're listening to audiobooks, The Reframed Brain. Okay.
I just wanted to put this plug in because I ain't hear Tahir say it. But this Saturday coming up, July 11th at 10 o'clock, we will be at Nat Turner Park at the Tahir Whitehead Sports Complex, 10 to 3. Anyone interested in registering, you can look at the Department of Recreation website or Facebook. You can reach out to the Department of Recreation and ask you to sign up your children to make sure that they come and get everything that Tahir is pointing to our young people with his special guests.
And Marquis, can you 11? 11.
You beat me to the point. Yep, it's July 11th, and it's from 9 to 3, and it's K through 12. But yes, please. Spots are extremely limited, so register early.
And Marquis, if you can get us that flyer so we can put on our page.
Yeah, I sent it to Jonathan. You have it.
Okay.
Thank y'all so much.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, everyone. God
Thank
bless.
you. You can. Thank you.
Take care. And I'd like to thank all the guests who came on our show as well. Thank you to Rahman Muhammad and Alturrick Kenney for pastrami over politics and a lively conversation. Thanks to Dr. Todd Stephen Burroughs for a wonderful conversation on Ta-Nehisi Coates and the latest article that he wrote. Also, thanks to Josie Gonsalves of Public Square Amplified for the conversation, our continuing conversation on the Black press, and also much thanks to Tahir Whitehead and Marquis Lewis. Tahir Whitehead, former NFL star and also great citizen of Newark, New Jersey. So thank you for coming on.
On the way out, can I say something?
Yeah, sure. I want to say.
Just several things. One, today is the anniversary, the ugly anniversary of the conviction and death sentence of Mumia Abu Jamal. You put that on your July 4th grill, right? And on the 5th of July is the anniversary of Frederick Douglass's epic "What to the American Slave Is Your 4th of July." Something about Martyrs Day that you remember our Gloria Brown Marshall just shared with us when she was with us a few weeks ago. That's happening locally at Riverside Church at 2:00. And tomorrow and Sunday, the next 2 days in Atlanta, 250 years of resistance to colonialism. Right? Just want to be clear. Don't lose your mind behind no firecrackers and no other kind of crackers on the 4th of July.
I just want to say, I don't know if it was said at the top, but we want to take this time to wish our own Jonathan happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
You got a lot of B-Day love online too. Yeah, they did.
Yes, he did.
And his queens got it.
She did.
Okay.
Yep. And thank you. Special shout out to Ashley Renee.
Right on to that, beloved. Black love matters.
All right.
Absolutely. So thank you, and we will see you again next week. Be careful, be safe, and definitely be safe out here in this weather. And all these storms going on. These storms going on politically, and these storms going on there. Yeah, and this intense heat. Check on the elders, hydrate, Zaid said, and let's do that. All right. Until next week.
We'll see you in the whirlwind, and you don't stop.